Week with Dirt and Sprague.
Kenny Wayne's gonna score! Kenny Wayne is gonna score!
Bud Light presents a rivalry week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Nothing easier to enjoy than that. Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Enjoy responsibly, 21 plus.
Rivalry Week with Dirt and Sprague on the Odyssey app and 1080.
I'm cooking on your grill.
The Fan.
All right, 6:02 in the Rose City. Time for Dirt and Sprague on Portland. Sports Leader 1080. The Fan. Good morning. Happy Monday.
What is happening?
Oh, man. What a Monday.
It's going to be an interesting week. Turn and burn. Not a lot of time. Lots going on. Not enough time this week.
It is a weird week because it feels great to be in today. There's a lot to talk about. And yet I'm like, I was driving in past the Moda Center and I'm like, kind of feels like vacation mode a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, people just kind of already entering Thanksgiving week like, you know.
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
Like Wednesday's work productivity for the majority of Americans.
Very, very minimal.
It has to be
very minimal
in that conversation of like, not as much done that day as other days.
You're traveling. You're going home. You're probably, a lot of people just get like my brother's company, I think, gets the entire week off for Thanksgiving.
I know a couple people with the whole week off too.
Just the whole week off, just hanging out. A lot of people going home. If you're not from the area, you're flying back. I always tell it, like, I feel like I've come to the conclusion based on my Friday commute. I think we've made the switch somewhat to a 4-day work week. Or at least a 4-day in-office work week and then Friday work from home. Because I feel like Friday traffic is way less than what it is the other days of the week.
Well, in the morning.
In the morning, at least.
For us.
For
our
us.
morning.
For our,
you too.
For
yeah.
my
so
commute.
it's like, just you guys. Hey, Dirt and Sprague get the best of it on a nice light Friday.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm sure it picks up as the day goes on. But, there's a pretty normal traffic flow like Monday through Thursday. And then Friday is a lot lighter. Today felt like a pretty light traffic day.
It did feel a little lighter. I will say, though, on that, have you noticed that companies, I have a few people in my life, and I will not say who they work for, but some of these major corporations, they're done with this COVID, work remote crap.
You're going back into the office, bitch.
There's a lot of emails
whether
saying,
you like it or
hey,
not.
coming up,
Yeah.
be ready.
We're going back in the office. No more Zoom meetings. No more wearing sweatpants all day.
We own real estate. We're tired of paying for that building, and it's empty.
This is an expensive bill every single month, and we turn the lights on whether you're here or not, and we'd like you in the office.
Yeah, I noticed it a little bit, but I've had more and more people tell me, like, yeah. I had somebody, a friend of ours, a family friend down here, and they were telling us that one of the major corporations in America, in the world, that she works for, and she's like, yeah, there was a big meeting, and like they did a poll, and 76% of the respondents said they're going to leave the company if this is really going to be mandated.
If they make them come back into the office.
Now, that's, of course, in the moment of like, yeah, I'm out of here. But
I'm not doing it.
You're largely not going to go anywhere.
Nobody's going to do that.
Yeah.
No, maybe 2 people.
If I had $1 for every time I've heard that from an employee here, I'd be a very rich man. That's it.
Man.
Final straw.
Done.
I'm out of here.
Probably
No, you're
said
not.
that 7 times myself since last week.
No, you're still here.
I didn't want to name names, but Schulte said it to me at least 39 times.
We're all guilty of it. We've all done it from time. If this is my last straw, I swear, if it doesn't go the way that I want, I'm leaving the industry. No, you're not.
Yeah, no, still hanging.
Still here.
How early is too early to start preparing for Thursday?
Oh.
I was debating if I should be making anything today.
I mean, we've already done shopping. We haven't done any cooking yet. We've bought the ingredients.
See, I need to do the shopping, and I probably have to do the shopping today.
Yeah, you missed
What?
the opportunity already.
Have
I
fun
feel
with
like.
that, buddy.
Yeah.
What do you
Where are
mean?
you going to go? Costco? Freddy's? Where are you heading?
Oh, I'm going to, my local Freddy's.
Local Freddy's?
Yeah.
It's going to be a madhouse.
What would I
this
need to
week.
get from Costco? It's just my family.
Well, sometimes they got good deals on turkeys.
They
So I
do.
know if you wanted to get your turkey there, I think pound for pound, they probably have the best deal. But
I would say
We're
so.
not going
spitballing
turkey.
on that.
However, there are a lot of places that if you spend spend $100. Like I think Kroger's doing this, where you get like a free turkey if you spend $100. So it's
Really?
not
That's a good
necessarily like always Costco that like has the best turkey. Like you can get like a
We're
nice
doing
little...
sliders.
Oh,
What kind of meat?
turkey sliders?
Ground beef.
Ground beefs, just regular old sliders.
Cheeseburger sliders.
Okay,
Okay,
I'm a little
that's
jealous about that.
We've pivoted out of turkey.
Sounds delicious. You should pivot out of turkey.
Yes,
It's
you should.
overrated, and nobody really likes it. We just convince ourselves it's good every Thanksgiving.
I mean, turkey's good, but I talked about this with Rust. It isn't my top of the line thing I'd want to eat. I would say, though, however, the aesthetic is great.
That's why you make it.
Seeing it, it makes you feel a certain way, seeing a whole turkey.
Well, look, the benefit of the turkey is that you get leftover turkey sandwiches. That's the strongest argument
very good point.
in the pro turkey category is that you get Friday, Saturday, Sunday turkey sandwiches. Who doesn't love a good turkey sandwich?
And there's nothing like the turkey, like off of the Thanksgiving turkey for your sandwich.
Yeah.
Even though they say, oh, it's this carving board turkey you can get at the store. It ain't like your Thanksgiving turkey.
No, it's out of my oven. It's made with love, damn it. But it's all about the nostalgia and the aesthetic with the turkey. We love pulling out the turkey. You put it on the table. You carve it. It makes you feel good. It feels like Thanksgiving, but I'm all about pivoting away from that.
Well, it's going to be a weird day because we do the show today, and we have a lot to get to, but I got to probably do a lot of shopping. My kids are off all week.
Yeah, no school all week this week.
So the kiddos, they're out. They were out Friday. They called this. I didn't know about this, but my kids got home in the early part of the month, and they were like, no school in November's here. And I'm like, what?
What?
And I looked at the schedule, and it was this whole week, last Friday, the previous Monday.
Holy hell.
And then the week prior was Friday.
Get in school. What are we doing?
No school
Where are
November.
my tax dollars going, damn it. Get in school.
Yeah.
Whole week off. They go back for what, 2 weeks, and then you get the end of December off,
Basically, yeah. That's exactly what happens.
This is a dream, man.
Sounds good to me.
Living
the life.
Living the life.
Although we had, an hour plus of recess every day? I don't think they have that much. So I don't know. The trade-off, while you're at school, you kind of got to, dink around as much as you wanted to when we were kids.
What did
now,
we get, 30 minutes
like
of
you put the
recess
hammer
I
time?
don't think we
remember how
got
long
north of
recess.
an hour. North
We
of an
got-
hour seems extensive.
We got 2 recesses. We got one
did.
20-minute period in the early morning or
One in
the
the
late
morning,
afternoon,
yeah.
and then you got your half-hour
Lunch.
recess on top of lunch. And lunch was a half an hour. Recess was also half an hour.
Yeah.
So you had that extra, you had an hour to bleep off. It was awesome.
Lunch was a good hang, and then recess was exceptionally better in the afternoon than the morning for
Yes.
obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But largely, both recesses in elementary school, we just played 49ers versus Cowboys. We
That
would
was
just
it.
play two-hand touch football.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, or pickup basketball, a lot of
There's always a game.
foursquare.
Yes,
a lot of
foursquare.
kickball. We played a lot of kickball and
A lot of
recess.
wall ball.
We
Wall
dabbled
ball.
in basketball. We did I want to say in 3rd or 4th grade, there was a tetherball movement for about
I
a
remember that.
month.
Was there a footy movement at your school? Because we played soccer probably every day at recess for 2nd and 3rd grade.
No, I'm
That was,
legitimately
the
telling
thing.
you 89% of my recesses in elementary school were two-hand touch football.
That's
We
awesome.
played football.
That was it. On the concrete, on the grass.
No,
If it
we
was-
took the whole soccer
Yeah.
field. Anybody wanted to play soccer, we told them to piss off.
Get out of here. We're playing two-hand touch football.
Piss off, Todd.
You're going to fall into the dirt and the mud eventually, and you're going to go in for the second half of the class with just, some streaks of mud down the side of your clothes. But it felt good. You got the win at halftime.
4th grade me was just the absolute prototypical American male. Get out of here. This is American football.
That's what we do. Damn it.
Get your soccer out of here.
I go back to Europe. Nobody likes your sport. It's never going to take over in this country. We play football.
Do you remember what day we got off on Thanksgiving week? Because I feel like we used to go up until Wednesday.
That's what I feel like in my memory, that we had a couple of days Thanksgiving week, maybe Wednesday off.
Wednesday was just the easiest day, though, because every teacher didn't want to be there.
No.
And so we made turkeys out of paper.
Yeah, or you watch a movie or you do something that
Yeah.
was nobody wants to be here right now.
Make some real offensive Indian headdress thing out of paper mache, construction paper, and Mom, look at me.
It definitely happened.
There'd be feathers with 9 different colors of
Yeah.
paper.
Doing the hand turkeys. Got to do the hand
Oh, gotta
turkeys.
do the hand turkey.
Hand
Remember
turkeys
that,
were
yeah.
always a key.
Learning about how the Pilgrims were such nice, accepting people. And
They
how It was
were.
just a fun Thanksgiving
They
celebration.
They were so delightful in my photos.
They
Wonderful.
were, yeah.
Holding a pie, smiling.
All
Look at us.
smiles. None of them actually smiled. They hate holidays. They hate Christmas.
We're
They're
all family.
Puritans. No, not actually the story that we know.
A lot of people, by the way, chime in and saying, too, that they are also pivoting out of turkey this year. So I think the movement is
Yeah,
taking
I love
hold,
that.
man. I think we're trending in the right direction. It's
Look,
a good thing.
We give hot takes here. I gave a hot take Friday. Prime rib is severely overrated. Many people are going to do non-turkey things, whether that's prime rib, steak, I don't know, burgers, whatever it
Yeah.
ends up being. There's going to be a lot of non-turkey folk.
Do what you love, man. Don't make meat you don't want to eat.
Yeah, that's a great phrase.
What
Don't
kind of
make
meat do you
don't
like to
wanna
eat? I like to eat certain kind of meats. Turkey's not really one of them, so don't make the meats you don't want to eat.
Well, the sandwich part of turkey is great, but what we're not talking about is there tends to be too much.
Yes.
So it's I can only eat so many turkey sandwiches that are super dry.
Too turkey sandwiches is usually enough for me.
And then I can make like a turkey soup, but like I still end up having
I never
more
do it.
turkey.
I never do it. We always say to ourselves, "Oh, we can make a soup with this." Never end up doing it.
Really?
And then you get to Sunday or Monday
And then it's time to throw
and then
it.
it's just sitting in the
Yeah.
fridge, and you say, "All right, let's toss it in the garbage."
See, my wife's
That's what we
actually good at that. She'll take the carcass or the bones and she'll throw it in the crock pot and make a nice
As you
little
should.
broth.
got. Yeah,
or-
that's the way you
it's-
should
it's
do
really
it.
good.
You're doing it right, at least.
Yeah.
I am running on 3 hours of sleep.
Oh, that's a good thing.
Who ditto? 3.5. I beat you by, 29 minutes?
I've never
maybe?
had insomnia in my life.
Uh-oh.
And I had it yesterday, and I don't know
Uh-huh.
how to explain what happened, but I think it was the coffee after 2:30 p.m.
That could
that'll
do it
do
to you.
ended up biting me, which never usually happens, but
I think
it did.
you were so excited to talk about the weekend in the SEC that you just couldn't sleep. You were jonesing too much, man. You're you're too antsy for the show today. You got to dial it back a little bit.
I
Relax.
don't often have things where I come into the show and it's like, man, what a weekend for me. That was great.
You're all excited over there. You gotta calm down. Insomnia is not a fun thing when you're trying to fall asleep and then you start thinking about not being able to
I
fall
wasn't
asleep.
tired at all.
Not even-
It was
not- yeah.
11:30, and I'm like, dude, I cannot sleep.
That's not good. Did you sleep good Friday, Saturday?
I slept fine all weekend.
Yeah.
I woke up yesterday at 5:30, and I thought, because that's what I usually do is Sunday wake up early,
Yeah.
so I'm tired Sunday night.
Get some stuff done.
That didn't matter at all.
Mm.
The caffeine killed me.
Too much caffeine, man.
Yeah.
I got a no caffeine after like 1:30 rule.
I think I'm going to start applying that to my life.
That's my logic. Doesn't always impact me, but every once in a while you have that cup of coffee at 3, and then you're like, dude, it's 9 o'clock.
You've
and
had
I'm-
this happen
Oh,
to you?
I've had this happen before.
Really?
Which is why I have my rule. You don't really have a rule until you learn the lesson, so that's why I got my rule. 1:30 is my cutoff.
I don't feel tired, and I turned and burned. I woke up and I did the caffeine thing in the morning.
Woo!
But I'm really open once this is done, and
Oh, you're
later
gonna
on,
crash.
I just crash hard today.
It's gonna be about 11:15 today. You're gonna be like walking around Fred Meyer's aisles, elbowing grandmas out of the way for potatoes, and you're just gonna want to fall asleep in the aisle.
My kids are watching this Disney show, this cartoon one, and it's a new show. It's really good. I told my kids if I was a kid, I would watch this show. And they have a Black Friday episode. And I had to explain to my kids, you'll never experience this in your life now because Black Friday is like a 2-week thing. It's no longer mandated to one day.
No.
But man, accurate portrayal of what Black Friday used to be of people just elbowing each other and fighting each other over stuff.
Unbelievable Thunderdome.
Yep.
Elbowing, deals are there.
I kind
Gotta
of
go get
miss
'em.
it. Kind
was
of
a
miss it. Gotta be
mess.
honest
like,
with
people
you.
got arrested. It wasn't just like normal Thunderdome. It was like people are going to jail, willing to die for like a $90 TV or whatever.
I
like
had an
$5
old lady
dinner they got.
steal a DVD out of my shopping cart at Walmart one year.
just
I'll never
so-
forget it. I couldn't believe it.
Trashy.
I just watched her walk away with the DVD that was clearly in my cart.
Hey, that's my DVD.
That's my Susie talks a lot. No, that's mine.
You
Like,
remember when
it's
Joe
the
Dirt
worst.
yells at the guy and he's like, yeah, you better run away. And it's a guy carrying an oxygen tank who doesn't look back. That was the old lady with me at Walmart. Hey, hey. She's just moving around fast.
No, I'm leaving you.
I kind of miss Black Friday being a one day, you have to be there deal.
It was a bit of a Thunderdome, and I'm glad that it doesn't exist anymore.
Really?
But I also was never a Black Friday shopper.
Oh, I used to be notoriously in line at 1:30 a.m.
When I first met the wife, her whole family, they used to go every Black Friday. Like
Good.
At the end of the Thanksgiving would always ramp down earlier because they would have to get up at whatever ungodly
Yep.
time to go shopping Friday morning. They've stopped doing that, I think, because everybody just gets their stuff online for the most part now. But they used to do it every single year.
See, I didn't
Was
even
it-
sleep. I just went straight through.
Straight through,
Yep.
yeah.
It wasn't just Friday. I remember the last decade before COVID, it was the evening of Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
too.
you go
could
Thursday
in at
night,
like
yeah.
5 p.m. And it's like, all right, so we're just getting rid of the damn holiday to go consumerism more. Yeah.
You want to know a fun story? Is one of the first Thanksgivings with my wife, we went to her aunt's house and she wasn't feeling well. So she went to a guest bedroom and she sat there and she's like, I really feel awful. And so we ended up taking her to the hospital. She had diagnosed pneumonia. And we went to my mom's house later that night, and at 2:30, she woke up and goes, let's go shopping. I'm like, you have pneumonia.
No, you're not going outside.
She ended up being fine.
What? Yeah,
It
deals,
was crazy.
deals are deals, man. You got to
Deals-
fight through. That's her
deals-
Jordan flu game. I don't care if I got pneumonia. Have you seen what the price is on those flat screen TVs? I'm not missing that opportunity.
By the way, shout out your in-laws. Boy, just talk about privilege. You didn't even care. We used to
No.
all just get up and go at 2 a.m.
Yeah, thankfully never had to do that. And I'm really glad that I never had to do that.
Well, let's pivot out of Thanksgiving and Black Friday talk. It is a busy show today. There's a lot. There's probably too much to get to. I got a lot of audio. We're actually going to start there. I have a lot of audio from the weekend, a lot of fun audio.
Okay.
It was a fun weekend in college football, interesting weekend in the NFL. We got our beloved Blazers. We got a ticker stop to talk college football at 7:30. Dirt and Sprague, we get it going next with some crazy college football audio. We'll start there on 1080 The Fan.
Girl, I must warn you. I said something.
Bud Light presents a rivalry week edition of Dirt and Sprague
Nothing easier to enjoy than that. Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy.
on 1080 The Fan.
All right, welcome back in to no shocking development. Check in on Monday from Friday's show. Did not get a tree.
Yeah, no tree early, huh?
Dang it.
No. I have a fake little tree that I put up.
Both Dirt and I told you to get a tree.
That's what your family said to you.
They didn't need to say it. They just gave me the look.
Yeah, we're going to get ours on Friday. Thankfully, the weather, it looks like after today, we're heading for a really nice, cold, sunny streak. Like low 40s, but not a lot of rain. So we're going to get chilly. It's going to be chilly out there.
Saturday was nice.
Saturday was great.
And
yeah.
then I was like, Sunday, I'm going to put everything up. And then it just piss-poured
Just
rain
all day.
It's awful.
Not happening. We'll do it Friday.
Busy weekend in college football. Tough weekend in the South, wasn't it?
It was a very tough weekend in the South.
But I thought they were the best. They'd be favored in Vegas, Brandon.
I mean, they still would be, but yes.
Cool.
They're all out of the playoff.
Give me the points.
Yeah,
Wait,
take
wait,
the
wait
points.
till we hear about a 4-loss SEC team.
Oh, it's
SEC
looming.
team sneaking
Yeah,
into
it's
the
going to
playoff.
happen.
Oh,
You just
it's
brace yourself.
looming.
You know what the other debate is? Brace yourself for Clemson to enter the chat.
Oh, God.
Oh, South Carolina's going to beat them.
Okay, I hope so.
No kidding.
But I thought the SEC sucks.
I mean, Clemson sucks.
Okay, gotcha.
So, yeah.
I'd
they
rather
suck too.
pine for the SEC than I would for Clemson. If you put a gun to my head and said, Schultze, choose one.
Wait
No, Clemson can go
It's
right
going to happen.
out.
If they win this weekend, they're lurking right there, just outside the top 12. You wait for Clemson to enter the chat.
I do think there is a 2 ACC thing looming.
Absolutely there is.
I mean, if SMU beats Miami, is Miami out?
No, I think both ACC teams, if they win this weekend, are now guaranteed a spot in.
Yeah.
SMU and Miami were two of the biggest winners of the weekend with everything that transpired.
I actually thought Indiana was too, despite
Oh,
them
without
losing.
a doubt, Indiana was the other biggest winner of the weekend. The hypothetical debates we were having were about this group of two-loss SEC teams, all being 10-2, and what do you do with them? They have quality wins, but bad losses. And how do you compare that to an Indiana if the game against Ohio State doesn't go well, or if an ACC team is to drop another game? Like, that was the whole debate. And so them losing makes that debate moot. The games still matter. And SMU and Miami were big winners. Indiana was a big winner. I'm joking about it, but Clemson has a viable path to the college football playoffs. So there were a lot of big winners this weekend because of the teams that couldn't get the job done on the road.
Where's that Clemson game played? It's a neutral site, isn't it?
No, it is not a neutral site game.
Oh, they do road and...
They do road and home.
Okay.
This year it is in, Googling, it is at Clemson.
South Carolina's
Saturday
playing
morning.
really well. Their defensive line is one of the best units in college football. I texted this to a buddy after all the chaos had ensued. We got audio to get to. Tell me if you think I'm wrong here. I have one Big 12 team making it. That's the winner of the conference championship.
Yep.
Okay. I have 2 ACC teams making it. We just went through that, so that's 3.
Yep.
I've got Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, Indiana all in, assuming they don't crap the bed this weekend.
4 Big Ten teams. Yep.
Okay, so that would be 7.
Yep.
Notre Dame would make it 8.
8. Yep.
Because they're not going to lose to USC. Boise, if they don't crap the bed against my Beavs, would make
The
it.
group of 5's automatically in either way. So even if they lose to
Sure.
UNLV, or it could be Tulane. So
Whoever
one
it
of
is.
those 3 teams will be in the college football playoffs.
So that'd be 9.
Yep. You got 3 spots left.
And then you're going to have the SEC winner. More than likely, and maybe I'll be wrong on this because it's a home game for A&M. I think Texas is going to beat A&M, and then Tennessee.
I think even if Texas A&M beats Texas, Texas is still in because of what happened this weekend.
Really?
I mean, who else are you going to put in?
No,
over a 10 like
Hey.
this. Like, we're running out of teams
I
now
know.
at this point. So then it'll come down to a debate of 10-2 Texas or 10-2 Clemson.
But if we rewind the tape from 2 weeks ago, I told you 2-loss Texas was going to get in because they're Texas, and it's
Well-
like you can't leave Texas out of a playoff with 2 losses,
Sure.
even if you don't point to anything good on their schedule.
The tough part for them they also were a huge winner this weekend, because if you had 2-loss Alabama, 2-loss Ole Miss, all
Sure.
these other teams that were still in the mix, they had quality wins on their resume, better than anything that Texas could point to.
Texas still doesn't have a top 25 win.
No, they don't. Neither does Penn State, but
No.
they were major
Well, they
beneficiaries.
do. They actually have Illinois,
Yeah, in Illinois, touche. Illinois is ranked in the back
which I
end
want to
of
get
the-
some audio on in a second here.
back end of the top 25.
Yeah.
They were another big winner this weekend. But the winner of that game between Texas and Texas A&M is going to go to the SEC championship game.
So
That's
after
already guaranteed.
all of the upsets happen and all the dust settles, Ross Dellinger goes to Twitter and says, "Is there a scenario where a 4-loss SEC team is in the playoff?" And I just said, "I hate all of you. I hate all of you." I want to get to this. This isn't a game we need to talk about much.
Yeah.
I just loved the audio. Illinois Rutgers. I don't know if you saw any of that. And if you didn't, that's okay.
Saw the way it ended. Absolutely wild.
Illinois was going to kick a field goal from like 55 yards, okay? He kicks the football, but Rutgers calls a timeout. The kick is atrocious. It's nowhere close to being made. Bielema sees this, and in the timeout decides, "Get to hell with it. It's 4th and 13. I'm going for it." Goes for it. There's sub 10 seconds left. And then Illinois wins. So I want you to listen to both sides of this. This is Rutgers radio on that final play.
At the Rutgers 40, this is it. Altmaier takes the snap, drops to throw, sidearms it. It's caught inside the 25, down to the 20, to the 10, to the 5. Touchdown, Illinois! There are no flags. With 4 seconds left, what just happened? Pat Bryant with the reception off the sidearm throw over the middle of the field. Got it to the near side and found his way in for the Illinois touchdown.
So that's Chris Carlin on Rutgers radio. Here was the opposite side of Illinois radio.
Rutgers showing blitz. Here they come. It holds. The line does. Allmaier slings it down the middle. Caught at the 20-yard line. Caught to the 10, to the 5. Pat Bryant into the end zone. Touchdown. Touchdown, Illinois. Touchdown, Illinois. Pat Bryant with a catch and run. Touchdown, Illinois. Can you believe that?
I can. The guy next to that other guy sounded like he's having an orgasm.
I was going to say, that got a little weird in the booth. Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
Look at that.
Illinois radio on the call.
A little bit of that. Absolutely bananas ending. For those who are wondering, too, because the final was 38-31. They were trailing. It wasn't a tie game. So they were down 31-30, tried the field goal. It looked terrible. And they were like, all right, this ain't going in. We got to try something else.
It was such a bad field goal.
And they scored a touchdown with 4 seconds to go in the game.
Only reason I kept an eye on that game throughout Saturday was because I was rooting extremely hard for Rutgers.
You want Illinois out of the ranks of the top 25?
Yeah, so I can point to Penn State and say they've done literally nothing, and we're propping them into the top 5 for no reason other than you've talked about that school for 45 years.
Yep, that's about it.
That is the only reason they are there. That resume is weak.
We got to keep a 3rd-ranked win for Oregon, too. Thank you, Illinois, for winning that game. Appreciate
Oregon
that.
doesn't need it. They beat Ohio State.
Resume's strong
They
over
need
here.
as
1,
much
2, 3.
cachet as they can get.
Why?
Because they've never been a winner of the national championship game, and nobody will deem them as successful or like a worthy program of being there until they do.
False.
We're
They've
still
been in
hearing,
2 titles.
Nobody's given us a
They
chance.
were
man.
undefeated in
We're always
01.
hearing about
Nobody's given us
You
a
stop
chance.
acting like nobody gives Oregon respect.
Then why are they like, oh, Dan Lanning, so such and such many days since he last lost to UW. He's never beaten UW. Oh, we're going to lean on anything he hasn't done until he does it. Why is that a thing?
But who's that a
Why?
thing for? Husky
28
fan? Who are
minutes.
you quoting there?
No, I'm
Yelling.
quoting Husky fan. I'm talking about some in the national media.
Name a name.
I don't think anybody in the national media said
uh,
that.
No,
That's
guy
a
in the
Husky.
national media
yes.
said a thing about
Guys-
Dan Lanning.
That's
He's
a-
the
there's a-
darling of the sport. You stop.
There's like a guy or two
A lot of
out
Husky
there
accounts
that
have
are-
said that
You
this
saw a
week.
Husky account and you just said the national narrative on Dan Lanning.
I'm
is
talking
this.
about stuff that I've seen long before Husky Duck rivalry week stuff. This entire season.
Nobody has said a negative thing about Dan Lanning.
Everybody's doubting us. Nobody's giving us a chance.
I tell you what,
I'm not
I'll
saying
give you-
everybody
I'll give you a
isn't.
challenge.
Not even the favorite to win the Big Ten right now.
You
Nobody's giving us
find
a
the
chance.
quote or the audio
All right.
of somebody saying something about Dan Lanning in the last 4 weeks since they've been number 1, and then you bring it to the show.
Well, this weekend was honestly a reminder to me that you should never apologize for tough, ugly November losses. Like coming the week off of the Oregon-Wisconsin game, I know we talked a lot about that last week. Oregon didn't look great. They weren't at their best. It was a long stretch of games they had to play.
Yep.
But you survive this time of year. You're not going to be at your best every single week. You're
Right.
going to have down performances, and then you look across the world of college football this year, and it's with Oklahoma dominating Alabama. It's Ole Miss going down. It's A&M going down. Teams losing left and right, and so you never apologize for a close late season win, man.
I have a lot more audio to get to, so let's get to it next. College football craziness ensued this weekend. We get to it next on The Fan.
Bud Light presents a rivalry week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Nothing easier to enjoy than that. Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, the Seattle Seahawks getting a huge win over the Arizona Cardinals, 16-6 the final. Geno Smith connecting with Jackson Smith and Jigba for a touchdown in the first half before Kobe Bryant had a 69-yard lead-extending pick six in the third quarter. Seattle now tied with Arizona for the lead in the NFC West. Bad news for the Vegas Raiders. Quarterback Gardner Minshew suffering a season-ending broken left collarbone in their loss to the Denver Broncos. Head coach Antonio Pierce likely turning to Desmond Ridder or Aiden O'Connell under center. Although, remember, Daniel Jones still an unsigned free agent at the moment. Week 12 of the NFL season wrapping up with Monday Night Football tonight in Los Angeles. The Chargers host the Ravens in the Harbaugh Bowl. Baltimore, a 2.5-point favorite. Kickoff at 5:15 on ABC. And kickoff for the number one Oregon Ducks final regular season game finally announced yesterday. It's going to be at 4:30 on NBC this Saturday against the Washington Huskies. Of course, coverage getting going right here on The Fan at noon that day. And in the association, the 7-10 Blazers back in action tonight, taking on the Grizzlies in Memphis for Game 4 of a 5-game road trip. Portland an 8.5-point underdog. Tip-off at 5 p.m. It's on K2 Charge, channel 2.2. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schulte at the 1080 The Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Tired of getting dinged by subscriptions? We won't send you a bill. Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan. Bud Light presents a rivalry week edition of Dirt and Sprague
Nothing easier to enjoy than that. Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy.
on 1080 The Fan.
We will get to a little bit of Blazers, but something also that bothered me on Saturday. I came trotting in. I'm a conference champion today, so my Monday's been made
Damn
extraordinary. I don't know about you guys.
Pac-2 champs. We haven't won ours yet. We still got a couple more weeks to go before we get a shot at it.
I'm not kidding. Hang a banner.
You should.
I have nothing else in my life. Give me a damn banner.
You guys should have had this be the official. Like I don't know. You probably can't do it with NCAA restrictions, but had this be your conference championship game.
Yes,
You're
agree.
not in the Mountain West. You're still in the Pac-2. And this was for all the marbles. You should get a trophy. There should have been streamers and confetti. Should have gone all out for this one.
You know, the mind does something. It tells things, even though it's not necessarily true to itself, to quell anxiety. So you guys do that. You'll be the laughingstock of college football. Everybody will visit. You got to be like, oh, that's hilarious, and point and look up at that and giggle. But do it. Do it. It'll be fun.
I would argue we already are, so who cares?
I guess maybe, but
Schultze's on one today. I love it.
Schultze's hot and horny.
Schultze's he's
hot
fired
and
up
horny.
today.
He came
He's
in.
That's my guy.
He's still wrecked. He's
ready to
angry.
go.
It's Husky week.
Everybody hates Oregon. Everybody's making fun of your team. What else we got in store, man? I can't wait.
We will yell at each other some more. I want to
Yeah.
get to some more audio, though. We had one of these this weekend.
Pay the man his money.
We had some great Kenny Dillingham audio.
That was one of the dumbest late game decision-making things I have ever seen.
It was. And before we get to it, I want to play some other things. We had SEC upsets all over. We
Yes,
had
we
Ole
did.
Miss, Alabama, and Texas A&M collectively lose to teams that going into the games were 5-14 in conference play. But keep telling me how great the conference is. Keep telling me. I love to hear it. Games don't matter.
I mean, they literally matter because those teams aren't going to make the playoff now.
Oh, they're still in conversations. They are still in conversations and consideration because it's college football. Let's do this. Let's get to the Florida call. Florida beat Ole Miss, and Jackson Dart just could not stop throwing the ball to guys in blue. Dark blue, that is. And here was Florida's game-clinching interception.
Dart takes the snap. Crockett closing. Dart lobs it right side. Intercepted! Intercepted to the 22 on the far sideline. And again, it's Bryce Thornton. Chop this one up for the Gators. 24-17. Florida upsets ninth-ranked Ole Miss and is bowl eligible with their 6th win of the season.
That from Varsity Radio, Florida Gator Radio Network. I got this idea from one of our P1s, Tyler, and I loved it, so I wanted to do it this weekend because it was chaotic. Just having all the home calls of these great moments, and so that was the Florida call for the game-clinching interception.
Not surprised at all that they went down, man. We talked about it on Friday. Florida's much better with DJ Lagway in. I know we can look at the record and say it's not a very good football team, and they're not as a whole this year, but they've been different the last couple of weeks when Lagway's been in the lineup. Ole Miss has been weird at times. They've looked great. At times they've looked terrible. That's kind of who they've been all season long. Jackson Dart, if you didn't watch this game, you're going to look at the box score and say Jackson Dart threw 2 interceptions. Jackson Dart threw 17 picks in this game.
He really did.
Like, he just would not stop throwing interceptions. Like, they even had, like, multiple overturn, and you'd look back, because I had the quad box going, and so I'm like, oh, Ole Miss has the ball back.
Same.
They overturned the call.
Yeah.
And then he would throw, like, the next pass. He just say, there you go. You take it. You take it now. So it was a really bad look for Ole Miss because their head coach for the entire week spent arguing other coaches in the SEC don't want to go to the SEC championship game because they're worried that the loss is going to leave them out and it's not worth the risk of trying to win to get a first-round bye. Dude, Ole Miss has not won an SEC championship game since the 1960s. They haven't won a conference title in like 70 years. Maybe your focus should be on what's in front of you and not the bigger picture, and they were caught napping. Florida took it from them. Bunch of 4th and shorts that they couldn't convert, and Ole Miss is now out. They're not in the playoff.
1-5 Auburn hosted Texas A&M, who was playing for their playoff lives, and this one was a doozy. It went to 4 overtimes, and in the 4th overtime, you're going for 2. It's just who can get their 2-point conversion. Because
starts in the 3rd overtime, you start going for 2.
And so neither got it in the 3rd. They go to a 4th overtime, and in the 4th overtime, Auburn with the ball first has this happen.
Thorne now goes in motion out of the backfield. Thorne looking, throws it to the back. It is caught in the back of the end zone. Rivaldo Fairweather. No. DeAndre Lambert-Smith.
So then they get their 2 point. It's 43-41. A&M has the ball. Reed drops back, and this is the Auburn call.
The snap. They flip it back to Reed, rolling to his right, throws to the end zone. It's dropped! It's dropped! Auburn wins! Auburn wins! Auburn wins! 43-41, 4 overtimes. Auburn wins!
I don't know if you know this, but Auburn won the game.
They did.
43-41 in the 4 overtime doozy at Jordan-Hare Stadium.
God, that was a great football game, man. Auburn was up 21-0, and I spent all week talking about how I thought A&M was going to lose this game. I didn't have A&M in the dirty poll this week. I was just thinking, yes,
I thought of you.
Got
the
one
entire
right.
game.
This is awesome. And then you look up and you're like, wait a minute. Auburn
Blowing
has
the
the lead in the
lead.
fourth quarter. This is not a good thing. But they held on. I feel terrible for that kid that dropped the ball. It was you could hear it on the call, but if you didn't watch, I mean, wide open, just standing in the end zone, 2-point conversion. You go to a 5th overtime. If he catches it, hits him right in the hands. And then that moment where he just like collapses to the field, and then the fans within 5 seconds are basically on top of him rushing the field. You feel horrible for kids like that in that spot, but not surprised in the least, man. A&M is a good team. They're not an elite team. That's who they've been all year. And so going on the road, losing to Auburn didn't surprise me at all.
The Message Board Genius account on Blue Sky or Twitter is great. They pull all these random messages from all the team message boards, and one of them says that Elko is a fatter Jimbo Fisher.
Yeah, I'm not there yet. I mean, he's in year 1. Like, I think he's already had. I mean, this is basically a better year than Jimbo had outside of maybe the COVID year at A&M. He was always like 6-6. They have a chance to win this weekend and go to the SEC championship game. They still control their own destiny to win the SEC. They're not going to because I think they're limited in certain spots, but they still control their own destiny after that game.
And then Oklahoma hosting Alabama. We talked about Alabama a little bit. You had them on, what number? Was it 3?
I had them number 2. I thought they were going to win the SEC, man.
And my whole thing on Alabama was not that they weren't good. It's just they're weird. And we've seen them be weird multiple times. They were exceptionally weird and awful on Saturday in Norman against what was going in a 1-5 Oklahoma team.
In motion, Sharp, snap, handoff Robinson up the middle, bangs into a man, backs his way across the line, and you can unhitch the wagon. Put the ponies in the barn. Roll around in it, Sooner fans. Snap. Thompson kneels it down, and that'll do it. And here they come. They're not going to keep them off the field in Norman. Oklahoma has upset Alabama, and they have rolled the tide. Final score tonight in Norman. Oklahoma 24 and Alabama 3. The Sooners hold the Crimson Tide without a touchdown for the first time in 13 years. Put the ponies in the barn.
You're rolling around in it? You think they're rolling around it in Norman?
I didn't really understand what that was. I don't want to roll around in it.
You don't want to roll?
If somebody tells you, do you want to roll around in it, you always say no to that, right?
I think that's an immediate no. I don't want to roll around in it.
Okay.
I'm going to pass on that.
Sydney's asking me that. Probably not.
Well, all right.
I mean, just this one of all the games, shocking.
Really?
Not that they lost.
Yeah.
They didn't score an offensive touchdown.
Yeah.
Oklahoma literally can't throw the football, and they didn't try to throw the football.
No, Arnold just ran all night.
They attempted 12 passes. They attempted 49 runs. It was just run left, run right, quarterback sweep, dive, pitch, jet sweep. That was their entire offense over and over and over again. And to not score an offensive touchdown, to get blown out in that fashion, I was absolutely floored by that.
Milroe can come back. What does DeBoer do there? Because he clearly is not a quarterback for that system.
He is a guy who at times looks like you cannot stop him, and at times it looks like he can't get a first down to save his life.
And that's who we saw on Saturday.
And that was the quarterback that showed up against Tennessee, and that was the quarterback that showed up against Vanderbilt. And then you have his games where he was against Georgia airing it out, and LSU where he ran all over them. It's just they're so hard to get a grasp on. It's another example of a team that's good but not truly elite and, above some of the others that we've seen. It was the first time that they didn't score an offensive touchdown, I believe, since 2011.
Yeah.
It's the first time since 2011 they didn't score a touchdown. It's their fewest points scored in any game since 2004, which was a 20-3 loss to South Carolina, coached by Lou Holtz. That's how long it's been since Alabama scored 3 points in a game.
Their message board says they need to fire this dude. They chose wrong. And North Carolina's message board said maybe they'll fire him so we can get him.
Yeah, Kalen DeBoer to North Carolina. That's the rim shot we're going to
Although
get.
Mac Brown is telling people behind the scenes he's actually coming back.
Yeah, talk about needing to fire a coach.
Oh,
Mac
my
Brown would be
God.
the one I would say. I don't know if we should continue to do this, Tar Heels.
By the way, that punt that they randomly fielded and ended up getting the ball at their own 1 for some reason, fielding that punt.
Yeah, Ryan Williams just caught it.
I don't know what that was.
I think it was a moment where a ball bounced at him and it was just instincts took over.
Well,
get out of the way, let it go in the end zone.
This was a great little snippet of a call that I got from it.
Oh, no! Disaster! What a bad idea!
That's
a drop.
This game also featured one of...
What a bad idea.
What a bad idea! Also featured one of the worst calls that I have ever seen. The illegal formation Ryan Williams covered up on the 4th and 3 is one of the worst calls that has ever happened in football.
I didn't have the audio on the game when that happened. I saw the call, and then I saw the replay.
One of the best catches of the year. Like how he caught that ball, I don't know. And they still lose the game. It would have been 24-10. It was in the fourth quarter.
That game was over.
The game was over. It was the principle of it.
Didn't he throw it when Williams caught it, not in the moment of seeing when it was?
Yes, it was about, so the play went on, and I want to say the ball was already towards the end zone. It was like 5 seconds into the play, then the flag came out for an illegal formation saying he was covered up, and then everybody on TV just stared at the formation like, what are we missing here? Because he was not covered up. It was not an illegal formation.
That man needs to be investigated.
That was the same crew that worked the Georgia-Texas game that overturned the pick six and then unoverturned the pick six based on a PI, no PI when they threw stuff on the field.
It's not been going well for officiating in the sport of football.
No, it is not.
Did you see last night and Sunday night, by the way, side note? So coaches are allowed to determine if they've accepted or declined a penalty, and then when they see a formation, they can change their mind?
Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing either.
Because that's what Nick Sirianni did last night. He said, what did he do?
It was 4th and 3. They accepted the penalty, and then the Rams offense took the field.
And then he changed his mind and told the ref, and the ref overturned the decision to take the penalty, decline the penalty, or vice versa, whatever it was. I didn't know you could do that.
There needs to be like a shot clock on decisions. This happened on Thursday in the Cleveland-Pittsburgh game where it was like 4th and 2, and Pittsburgh was trying to decide, do we want to accept the penalty or decline the penalty? And it took like 5 minutes to figure it out. They ended up declining the penalty, and then so it was 3rd and 7. And then
they accepted the penalty.
That's right. And then they called a timeout and they gave up a first down. It was something like that, but it was like, dude, just pick what you want to do.
Well, I thought when you said accept or decline, you have to, that's it. It's final answer.
Well, it was, I think in
Is it
both,
not?
Usually that's what I thought. I feel like the referee's allowed to give you an explanation, but then as far as the Thursday night game went, I thought maybe there was confusion with Tomlin, like not necessarily understanding what he gained and what he didn't by accepting the penalty.
That's on the coach.
It was a dumb decision anyways.
Yeah.
Tomlin is
they
great
ended up getting the first down.
No, except on Thursday nights. And why would you give anybody, if it's on 4th down, an extra down and go back to 3rd? I don't care if it's 5 yards, further back or not. But Sirianni might have had a little bit more leeway. When you go back to watch that, it does seem like the referee waited.
That's on him. If he makes the wrong decision, you got to pay the consequences, man.
I mean, I played captain for my football team in 8th grade, and the referee then wouldn't even give me more than a quick explanation. It's like, do you want to accept it or decline it? I wasn't allowed to ask him for help. I was 13. So I'm surprised that this is like the league that we're in now, where a head coach making multi-amounts of $1 million a year, he needs that help. Come on.
Yeah, I thought it was dumb.
It was really dumb.
We will get to Kenny Dillingham. We will get to my Beavs winning the Pac-2 championship on Saturday. We got Shahan Jaraja going to join us from CBS Sports coming up at 7:30. It is a loaded next 2 hours and 15 minutes. Dirt and Sprague back with more on 1080 The Fan.
Bud Light presents a rivalry week edition of Dirt and Sprague
Nothing easier to enjoy than that. Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy.
on 1080 The Fan.
Kenny Dillingham will get his own segment today. I think he should. That was an incredible moment in Tempe, Arizona this weekend. My Beavs won the Pac-2 championship. We'll talk about that coming up at the top of the hour.
What a night at Reeser, huh? What a night.
A delightful little evening. It was a little bit of a struggle bus. First world problem here. I'm going to bitch about something. I hated Saturday night because I kept running back and forth between two TVs in two different rooms.
Not enough TVs going on, huh?
Well, it's not a TV problem. Like YouTube TV offers me multi-view.
They do.
It is I couldn't watch the Blazers on non-antenna channel.
Yeah.
So I have a TV with the antenna. And so like I'm running to one room to watch the Blazers. And then I'm running back to see what's happening in other college football games and my Beavs. And there's just stretches where I'm missing parts of the Blazer game. There's maybe a couple plays I missed in the Beav game. I was really tired of going the back and forth thing.
So you don't have any cable or streaming? It's just YouTube TV.
Yeah.
Okay. So as far as I know, they got their digital signal on DirecTV. Thank God, because
I'm not getting DirecTV. It's not happening.
Well, I'm not saying to get it, but like I think slowly but surely they've been knocking out all of these.
Well, they'll be on YouTube TV after January 1st.
Yeah, we got about a month and a half, or 5-6 weeks to go, and then we'll be there, and it'll be on YouTube TV.
That's too much of a wait.
I mean, I got to be honest with you. That's more effort than I put in.
You probably didn't watch
I
the
didn't
game,
watch
right?
a second of that game. You got games going on. I had 4 college football games that all had major implications happening at the same time.
Really?
There was a stretch where Alabama threw a pick 6. 30 seconds later, Texas A&M scored a touchdown to go up after being down 21-0.
Yep.
And literally 30 seconds after that, Oregon State scored to tie the game after they had thrown a pick 6, and I thought that they were going to lose. Like, within 90 seconds, I had, oh, my God, Alabama's going to lose. Holy crap, A&M's come all the way back, and the Beavs have tied the game. All of that happening within 90 seconds. I'm not going anywhere near Blazers and Rockets, no offense.
But I got to hate watch Dylan the Villain.
I mean, that's good for you. I saw that we won on.
I hate that
Klingen
guy.
had 19 rebounds. That
0
was
points.
0 points, 19 boards.
I think
That's
he
a fun
became
stat
one
line.
of 8 players in NBA history to have 0 points and like 15-plus boards.
And the second Blazer since like 2014 or 15 to do it. So.
That's pretty bad. It was the most rebounds without a point since Marcus Camby. Marcus Camby had 20 in a game, I think, one time with his backward high fives. So that was awesome. But, yeah, I mean, if you put your game on and I have to be on the antenna to watch it and it's on at the same time as all that other stuff this time of year, I'm not going anywhere near that game.
That stat line by Klingen, 0 points, 19 boards, had been achieved 14 times, according to Sean Hyken. Of those 14, 7 were by Dennis Rodman.
That's awesome.
That's pretty impressive, man.
Never been done by a rookie.
He's banged up, though, not playing tonight, I
Sprained a knee.
believe.
He'll be out for the Memphis game tonight.
Which is fine. Be cautious. He was back in. He came back in later in that game after getting banged up. So
well, they got housed on Friday.
They got housed on Friday. They
you
did.
lost my bet.
Yeah.
You just picked the wrong game.
No freaking kidding. Although I made it up a little bit with Klingen. That points, rebounds, assists number. He scored no points, but he got over 17. He had 19 rebounds.
That's all it takes, man.
Yeah, so you didn't watch a second of it?
I didn't watch a second Saturday night. I watched Friday night because it was, there's nothing else really going on. You also, by the way, at that same time had Boise State on the road at Wyoming on the road.
And they were struggling.
They damn near lost to Wyoming.
Yeah, they did.
You give me that versus
a late touchdown.
Game 17, what are we at? Game 15, wherever we're at of the regular season. Now, if you tell me I can watch it on my phone or watch it on my iPad, I'll put it on the side.
Would have been so much more helpful.
That way I'll watch, but I'm like the only way I have to watch it is on my main sports TV, and I have to have the whole TV on it because it's the antenna, and I'm not bumping college football to an iPad.
Well, I had the Beavs on the big screen, and then on the iPad, I had the multi-view for the 4 games, and then on the TV in the other room, I had the Blazer game, so I had my whole family yelling at me about it. I'm like, you guys have TVs upstairs.
Yeah,
Get out of here.
Go sit upstairs. Go in the garage. Do what you
I
need.
don't need you around me.
This is that time of year, man. It's magical. There's things going on all over the place.
I think you just need to break and do the multi-TV setup in one room. You need to get like a little tiny TV with the antenna attached to it next to your big one.
Schulte, I have a dream. I have a wall I have to blow out and like push back the TV. I have a dream that I have a good TV on that wall.
Yeah.
And then 4 little TVs that are hidden with little like doors that you can slide in front.
Oh, that is sexy.
So I can watch everything at one time.
You've seen like the automatic things that they have now where like an arm will come down from the ceiling and bring your TV down. So you could even set it up to where like, yeah, they'll just appear from anywhere.
That'd be great.
That sounds
Shoot out of the side of the wall.
Oh, if I could get that.
best
Look, those
man
TVs,
cave,
man.
Oh, it's a good problem to have. Loaded second hour. My team has won the conference championship. Dilly. We'll talk about that. And we got a ticker stop as well at 7:30. Loaded second hour. Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
For many.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, a huge win for the Seattle Seahawks on Sunday against the Arizona Cardinals. 16-6 the final. Geno Smith hooking up with Jackson Smith and Jigma in the first half to take the lead. Kobe Bryant with a 69-yard pick six to settle it. Seattle now tied with Arizona for the lead in the NFC West. Bad news for the Vegas Raiders. Former Cougar quarterback Gardner Minshew suffering a season-ending broken left collarbone in their loss to the Denver Broncos. Head coach Antonio Pierce likely turning to Desmond Ridder or Aiden O'Connell under center. Aiden O'Connell just coming off of injured reserve. Week 12 of the NFL season wrapping up with Monday Night Football tonight. The Chargers hosting the Ravens in the latest iteration of the Harbaugh Bowl. Baltimore a 2.5-point favorite. Kickoff at 5:15 on ESPN. In the association, the 7-10 Blazers back in action tonight. They're taking on the Grizzlies in Memphis for Game 4 of a 5-game road trip. No Donovan Clingan, but Portland still an 8.5-point underdog. Tip-off at 5 p.m. on KATU Charge Channel 2.2. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schulte at the 1080 The Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
The Fan Merch Locker has a new long sleeve tee and hoodies in your favorite college colors. Get yours now at 1080thefan.com. This is Rivalry Week with Dirt and Sprague.
Gabriel's got her own 30, down the side 20, a block, inside the 5, touchdown, Dylan Gabriel!
Bud Light presents a Rivalry Week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Nothing easier to enjoy than that. Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Enjoy responsibly, 21 plus.
Rivalry Week with Dirt and Sprague on the Odyssey app and 1080.
It's a work day. It's a work day.
The Fan.
All right, welcome back in. Hour 2, Dirt and Sprague here on 1080 The Fan, the Odyssey app, 99.5 HD2, and of course, youtube.com/1080 AM The Fan. Good morning.
The only thing they screwed up on that Pac-2 championship game, why wasn't it this week?
I don't know. It's the rivalry game for them now because, the conference and college football are stupid. I don't know. Because maybe the scheduling with Boise and the Mountain West teams had to be this weekend.
So they play the Washington State this week plays Wyoming.
Yeah.
Oregon State this week plays Boise State. Boise State just played Wyoming. You could have just flip-flopped the two games.
Well, the Mountain West had to agree to those terms.
Yeah.
And so maybe the Mountain West was like, you guys figured it out the week before. But here we are.
I can't remember the original iteration of Oregon State's season this year before all the moving happened, but I don't know if this were the week that Washington State played Oregon originally, because that would have been just easiest. I'll just leave it on the schedule as it is.
Yeah, that could have been, from the schedule before. That just would have made more sense. Kind of Northwest rivalries last week of the season. Instead, you're playing a different Northwest rival. You got a chance to be a playoff spoiler this week.
Should we call this game the No One Watches Bowl?
I don't think so, but if you wanted to do it as a tongue-in-cheek, let's be self-deprecating, you could sell me on it, I guess, but I wouldn't want to call it that because I think probably a lot of people watch this game on Saturday.
Bill Orm wrote about that and jokingly said, call it the No One Watches Bowl because that's what Lee Corso famously said last year.
I would have if I'm named it anything, it'd be the No One Wants Us Bowl. That to me is a little more relevant than what an old man had to say on College Game Day.
Yeah, but what the old man said went more viral than saying the No One Wants Us Bowl, right?
That is true. But people do watch Oregon State and Washington State, and the numbers have been there all year for them.
My team won the conference title on Saturday. It was a great feeling. Thank you.
Congratulations to the
Beavers.
Beavers.
5-game losing streak to win that conference championship.
Just like we all thought, just like we all picked. This is the time. They're going to pull it out, look great offensively, and they're going to get a win.
Last team to win a conference championship sub 500 was?
Oh, in college football? I don't know if it's ever happened.
Look at us.
I don't think it has ever happened.
Even the SEC's never done it?
I mean, you would have to find a team it would have to be an SEC team that plays 8 conference games, went 0-4 in non-conference, and then 4-4.
That's never going to happen.
You couldn't get in unless you won a conference game.
That's true.
Right?
You'd have to win. So you win
I think we're the
6.
first.
Yeah, well, you're the first.
We're the first.
You're the first to ever do it.
It was a great football game.
Unbelievable game.
Very entertaining. I think both fan bases at different points thought, we're going to lose. And then, we're going to win. Hey! And so it kept going back and forth in that regard. But Oregon State snapped a 5-game losing streak. They beat Washington State, who was a top 25 ranked team. So it's a good win for them at home. A lot of Cougar fans. Text a couple people. A lot of Cougar fans here. And I was like, okay, not surprised by that.
No.
I will just add before I let you go, and I want to get to Mike Parker's final call of the Everett Hayes field goal.
Oh, that's going to be a good one.
It's a good one.
Happy for Doc.
I never again want to see this buddy crap. Okay? I hated it. I've hated it the whole time. If I see this stuff next year going into those 2 games, because they play them twice.
They do, yeah.
I'm going to unsubscribe from all the people. Enough with this friend crap. This kumbaya. Would you feel that way had the Cougars beaten them in Reeser? I doubt it.
Nope.
So enough with this stuff. This is football. I don't care that they also got left. Who cares? That does not impact me in any way. We are not friends. We are enemies. You're a rival, and you're a loser.
That was one of the best things to come out of this week, I honestly thought, was the fact that Dickert started it off with those comments of like, dude, we're not buddies. What are we doing here? They would have left us as fast as we would have left them. That then led to a lot of conversation throughout the week from the fan bases. And then the way the game played out, we should have known going in, because I feel like Oregon State and Washington State are on a stretch now of like 15 straight years where their game is an all-time classic, and it comes down to the final possession. I feel like this is how they play every year. Remember last year in Pullman, Oregon State was down big early. They came all the way back. Washington State survived. Like, these games are always seemingly wild, and this was another example of it. I hope this blossoms into a great late-season rivalry for them, where it's a game you put on the calendar at the end of Thanksgiving week. You're going to play Washington State either at home or on the road, and this becomes a normal thing for them. Because if it does and the game delivers like that, it's going to be a fun way to end your year. Man, just first off, happy for Beaver fans. I know it sounds patronizing when I say that, but I don't care. I got a lot of friends who are Beaver fans. It's been a brutal 2 years. Does it change your landscape in the sport? Does it change the outlook for the next year? Like, no. But you had a night where it was fun, and there were a lot of fans there, and you got to rush the field, and you knocked off a top 25 team. At multiple times in that game, it looked like you had no business winning. You threw another costly pick six, and you're like, oh, my God, that's going to cost them. Like, another pick six is going to cost them.
Almost threw two of them in that game.
Almost threw two of them, and yet you found a way. And so first off, just happy for Beaver fans. And then a major tip of the cap to Trent Bray. Like, I even said last week at times, I'm getting tired of hearing him say the guys haven't quit and they're still working their butts off at practice, because I'm not there. All I get to see is what the product is on Saturdays. And when you go on the road to Air Force and you can't get a first down and you lose 28-0 to a team who barely has a conference win in the Mountain West, that shows me a team that has quit. And he has remained steadfast in that and said, nope, we're still working our tails off. And here you go on senior night. It was their best game of the season, one of the best performances we've seen in a while from that group, and really fun way to go out in front of your home crowd.
I felt a little vindicated watching that game. Gulbranson was unavailable due to concussion. And so part of like what I saw from Gundy on the offensive side was, I'm going to be a little innovative here. I'm going to bring a guy in, start him most of the game, and I'm going to bring another guy in, and he's going to run the football or give the threat of running the football, and maybe he throws like a little check down pass. That was good. I think we would have saw that against Air Force if Gulbranson was healthy.
Yep.
But this goes back to before the year started. We did that show at that, that event randomly across the street, and I remember telling you on the air, like, I want him to be the starter. I don't think Ben Gulbranson is amazing. I don't think he is the best quarterback they've had. But of the options they had going in, I looked at him and just said he's the most stable, and he may cost you some points. He has, but he at least I know can throw the football. McCoy, I didn't really have any read he could, and Johnson, I had no real confidence that he could.
Yeah, he's an athlete.
So I think what you saw was just having some form of leadership, even if it did cost you 6 and almost cost you another 6. He at least made some throws when he needed to in that game. And, oh, by the way, Washington State is very overrated. That record does not indicate how overrated that team is. They just played a cupcake schedule. They're not a good team on the road.
Their defense is horrible.
It's horrific. Yeah. They don't know how to tackle.
No.
I'll be honest with you. I don't think that guy's a good coach. That's my take. I don't think he's a good coach. I don't. But they're not going to fire anybody.
Yeah, it'll be tough. They lose material in the offseason, especially going into next year. Like,
why would he stay?
I know.
Why he's going to financially benefit to go somewhere and be a real player on a real team. And so that's going to be heartbreaking to see for the Cougs. But that was a good win for the Beavs. Here was Mike Doc Parker's final call for the Everett Hayes field goal.
Head with a 55-yard field goal from the right hash with 26 seconds remaining. The snap, the hold, the kick by Everett Hayes is on the way, and it is good! With 20 seconds to play, Everett Hayes, a 55-yard field goal. The Beavers lead it 41-38.
I was really surprised how little Mateer crushed them with his legs. He had a good performance with his legs. I was surprised it wasn't more.
Could have been more, considering what we've seen from Oregon State's defense the last couple of weeks.
They're not a good rush defense,
especially against rushing quarterbacks. Yeah, the turnovers ended up being costly in the moments they happened for Washington State, right? I mean, it's 38-38. You got a wide receiver that fumbles around midfield. That ended up being the ultimate deciding factor in that game. To your point, though, on Oregon State and their use of quarterbacks, I love the rotation. Usually I'm not a huge fan of rolling two guys in and here you get a series or you get a play. It just sometimes can be a little clunky. I thought it worked extremely well for them. Gulbranson, there was a Beaver fan who connected to, I think I saw this on social media, it was basically like he's the white Jameis Winston right now, where he has moments where you're like, God, what a throw. That was incredible. And then he has a throw where you're like, what?
What are you doing?
are you seeing there? Why? What?
You can bait him pretty easily.
Very easily. And then he'll have touchdown throws where you're like, God, that was a dime,
Yeah.
dude. Like, why can't you do that more
He had
often?
some throws to Terry.
Yes.
That
they were
touchdown
like,
to Terry was remarkable.
it's an incredible throw. And then he just throws one right at a corner. And you're like, what are you looking at there? He's an incredibly frustrating quarterback to watch for that reason. But there's no doubt. I remember saying this out of the San Jose State game. Like, they moved the ball through the air in that game, unlike they have in any other game this year. The difference was they got into the red zone and they couldn't score. They had to settle for a field goal. They threw a pick. They went for it on 4th down. Like, you could have won that game. You had a 13-10 lead. You just kept shooting yourself in the foot, and then you threw a pick six standing in your own end zone. But the passing game was much better in that performance. But I thought in this week's game, they found a really good way of balancing what Branson brings to the passing attack, bringing in Johnson, who wasn't unbelievable, but 47 rushing yards gave you a nice little boost.
It's a good threat. It's a good threat, I think, to have, is to put him out there and say, you probably know he's going to run, but he's a good athlete, and maybe he'll pitch it.
Yeah.
I thought they were cooked when Hankerson dropped that 4th down.
I did too.
Catch.
I love the call to go for it.
I did too. I didn't get mad about any call. There was no coaching things that I had taken away from this game. When he dropped that, I was just like, oh, it's going to be that. That's going to be what it is.
Wide open.
I want to ask you this quickly, and then we'll go to some other stuff today, because I am happy for my Beavs. I am. They're still sub 500. They got a game at Boise this weekend.
Hey, go shock the world, man. It's not like Boise's blowing people out. They eked by Nevada and Wyoming in 2 of their last 3 games.
They did. I'm terrified that JT's going to have 190 at halftime.
Get to a bowl game, baby. Come on. One more win.
If you can't tackle Janty, you ain't getting to a bowl game, and they can't tackle Janty, so.
I know that this is being pegged as the new rivalry weekend. I know Orem wrote some stuff. People have talked about this. Maybe it's going to take time for me. I don't have that yet. I mean, I don't like them, but I don't have it. And so I don't know what the future is. I had people, I mentioned saying, like, ditch the Oregon game. I think financially you can't. You kind of need the payday.
Yeah, I understand why people want to ditch it. It's a financial reason why you're not ditching it.
I mean, I wouldn't be stunned if it did go away.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be the most shocking thing ever.
No.
I don't know if they benefit at all from having it other than to, like, sell tickets, How long is this going to take for this to feel like a rivalry?
I think it depends on how the games go and what's at stake here.
Because they play twice next year. That's
gonna
so
be
weird to me.
That's going to be very weird and not normal. And it won't be normal after next year. You're going to go back to normal. And so you will only play them once. I hope it's the last game of the season. I think rivalries, you cannot manufacture them. They have to be created on their own and take a life of their own. And so is there a year, once you get into that new shape conference, where this is the game that decides who goes to that conference championship or is determining who gets the maybe potential at-large bid for a college football playoff and one team wins in heartbreaking fashion over the other? Like, that's what's going to lead to this becoming a serious rivalry. Thankfully, they always play classic games, so now we just need both programs in the years to come to have something to play for at the end of the year, and then you'll get there where you start hating them. Give them time, but there's got to be something on the line for the game, which is why, like, on the 4th down call, I like going for it there after the Hankerson drop. And I thought Ryan Leaf said it perfectly on the broadcast. He was like, dude, you got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
You're 4-6, probably not going to a bowl game. You got nothing to play for other than pride at this point. So what the hell? What do you got to lose? Go for it. They went for it and they got it. You got to have something on the line, though, I think, in the game in order for it to take that next step.
I'll final thing on this and we'll move on. A year ago at this point, exactly a year ago, Jonathan Smith left the program.
Yes, he did.
And I just thought, good for the team to get that win.
Yeah.
Jokingly win the Pac-2 championship, but get that win, snap a losing streak, and we'll see what they can do at Boise. I don't have a lot of faith, but go to Boise and give it your best effort and maybe become a bowl team.
Nevada damn near beat them in that stadium a couple of weeks ago, so it's not impossible.
And as you mentioned, looked very vulnerable against Wyoming.
Yes, Janty, by the way, got banged up in that game. Now he came back in.
He's been banged up for a couple weeks.
But he has been banged up for a while. He left the game for a bit, came back in, so he is nowhere near 100%, man. That dude's been running to the ground.
His legs are exhausted, and he's got that Gronk arm thing going. Yeah. So I think, at least you get a banged up Janty. I think they're a better team than you. That was a good win. Kind of feels like we celebrated it as if that was our last win of the year.
Yeah.
But still fun to win it nonetheless.
I mean, it's senior day, dude. Fans get to rush the field. It was a fun way to end your home slate after a really rough month of football.
This man has kind of overtaken college football. We'll get to that next on The Fan.
The Herd with Colin Cowherd.
Bud Light presents a rivalry week edition of Dirt and Sprague
Nothing easier to enjoy than that. Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy.
on 1080 The Fan.
All right, welcome in on a Monday, November 25th. Just chatted about the Beavs' big win over the weekend, their conference championship game.
Congrats to the Beavs, man.
Thank you.
Congrats to the Beavs.
Hang the banner. 1-0 against our rival. Suck it, Cougars. We will talk with Shahan Jayaraja of CBSSports.com. He covers college football in general. The SEC meltdown this weekend. Oregon being number 1 and undefeated. The lone undefeated team in college football.
The only one left. Army and Indiana were the other two, and they both lost this weekend.
Hey, you know what the O stands for? 0 losses, actually.
Currently, 0 losses.
Currently where it is.
what it
Schulte,
stands for.
update on the Dan Lanning slander.
I'm trying to, dude, I've got another job to do. If I could spend the next hour going and finding a clip from some East Coast idiot that's like, well, the Ducks are just a little overrated because they haven't played that good talent yet in the SEC. I've never not heard that, but no update.
Okay.
Just checking.
Jerks.
Checking on that.
I don't think it's real. We will go to our ticker guest here in a few moments. Kenny Dillingham is taking over college football.
Dude's having a moment, man. That was a hell of a game on Saturday.
What a wild scene.
This was the thing that I tried to argue last week. I know we're going to spend the next 3 weeks yelling at each other about the back end of the rankings and who should be in, and this SEC team or the Clemson or SMU. Like, you know, it's not going to end. And I love it, and we can debate it till we're blue in the face. This was a weekend where you had playoff implications up and down the slate, and you had a chance for all-time chaos. We got all-time chaos, and I was glued to games without an expanded playoff that in the past I would not have cared that much about. I would have watched because I love college football, but I would not have been emotionally invested, and the fan bases would not have been emotionally invested. I thought this game was the prime example of it. This was number 14 versus number 21. Yeah, there's Big 12 title implications, but without an expanded playoff, it's just all right, Arizona State's a good story. BYU's a good story. I'm going to watch it because it's on at 12:30, and there's not that many other games on in that window. And it ended up being an incredible game where Arizona State now controls their own destiny to make the college football playoff.
ASU did a little bit of the Auburn thing. Big lead early,
yes,
and then second half was all BYU. So if you saw the ending of this play, Leavitt snaps the ball. Final play, what he thinks or what Dillingham thinks, throws up a Hail Mary, which is basically a throwaway pass. It lands or is technically deemed out, and the refs have to review, but in the process – the entire stadium stormed the field.
Yeah.
Not the students, the stadium.
Everybody's on the field.
And so here's some audio we get to get to. Here's BYU radio calling this while the fans have stormed the field. Now here's BYU.
Dillingham is right in the middle of the whole scrum by the refs, and he's yelling and throwing his hands around at the refs down there. He's actually in their face. Dillingham is throwing a fit down by the replay booth.
He's red-faced and very upset.
He's throwing his hands at his throat. He's saying that it's over. The officials are pushing him back.
And Michael Vanderveld remains with the headset on at the monitor.
Well, if there's a second, there's a second.
Game clock operator, please reset the game clock to 1 second, please. 1 second.
All right, so a second on the clock. And this entire time...
Fans, please return to the stands. Fans, please return to the stands.
It's like, this is a mess.
It's the entire time, the stream of fans just continues unabated onto the field here.
You've almost got the entire 100 yards of field now covered in yellow fans, just packed almost end zone to end zone.
It's a 12-minute delay to get the fans off the field. By the way, they had torn down a goalpost.
Yeah, to put a goalpost back up.
At the closest side to where they came out of the stadium. So there's BYU calling it on the radio. Here was Kenny Dillingham. With all the students on the field, they're all standing around the refs and Dillingham. And in the age of social media and cell phones, we actually got the recording. I had to edit this, but here is some audio, and you can hear Dillingham, who was yelling at the refs. You can hear him yelling in this video. And they ended up saying 1 second left. BYU threw a Hail Mary, actually caught the pass at the 2-yard line, but the game is over. ASU pulls the upset off, and now they controlled their destiny. They got Arizona, who is just in shambles right
Yes.
now. They got blown out by TCU. They beat Arizona and win the Territorial Cup. They will be in the Big 12 championship.
Yes, they will. And if they win that game, they're in the college football playoff. It's the beauty of the sport. Nobody saw this coming from a million miles away.
Do you even think they saw this coming,
No.
if you're being honest?
No, I don't.
This
but
is crazy.
I also don't think you can overstate how important that win was, no matter how their season ends, just for everything that you need to succeed in modern college football. Like, it's one thing for Kenny Dillingham a year ago. What did Arizona State go? 3-9, I think. 3-9.
Yeah.
It's one thing to sit around when you're 3-9 and getting blown out like by Oregon at home, and to say, "Hey, if we want to compete with them, you got to spend money. I need investment. I need resources. If we want to compete in this conference or try and do something that matters, we're going to need the resources behind us." It's another thing to do it when you're 9-2 and say, "See, this is why you want to spend your money." And I guarantee you the money is going to flow into that program now. It probably already was earlier in the year. It's only going to continue to get bigger. If they win next week, they go 10-2. You go to the Big 12 title game. What a remarkable story. What a remarkable turnaround. I also think Dillingham and his anger at the end was mostly like, you're mad at your dad, you're not mad at me.
100%.
That was one of, for those who didn't see it, they get a pick. They run the pick all the way down inside the 10-yard line.
They were at the 3, I think.
3-yard line. There's less than a minute to go. BYU can stop the clock, I think, 2 more times.
They're up 5. It's
up by 5.
28-23.
And instead of just saying, let's hand the ball off 4 times, if we score a touchdown, the game's over. You're up by 2, you're up by 12 with less than a minute to go. You're going to make BYU use their timeouts. They instead decided to do the backup, take a knee, backup, take a knee. And so he thought that he could run the clock all the way down in that scenario. And then on the last play of the game, it was 4th down, and he said just run around and throw the ball out of bounds.
He did it too quickly, though.
And he did it too quickly.
Because
they got pressure. And so I think ultimately it was the right call that there was 1 second left. This is one of those times I think you see a lot of analytical moves from coaches that make sense. This was one of like, dude, you got Scatterbo, who's one of the best running backs in the country. How many times has that guy fumbled this year? Just hand the ball off. If you score a touchdown, the game's over. They're not going to score twice in the final minute of the game. Just like, you don't need to outthink the room in that spot. Thankfully, it didn't end up costing them, and they won the game.
Yeah, Dave Pasch kept going back and forth with Dusty Dvorak on the broadcast about this, of like, again, Dusty, if you just score.
Just hand the ball
he's like,
off.
Well, I could go the other way. And so, like, they're kind of debating this whole what do you do, what you don't do. Here was Dillingham in the postgame. He's gotten quite good at these press conferences.
Yes, he has.
Here's a couple cuts. Kenny Dillingham talking about, hey, get your tickets now because we're a hot commodity.
So buy your season tickets. Let's make that every single week of next year. Because why would you not want to be in that environment? That was one of the most fun places to be in college football. Why would you not want to do that every Saturday? All it is the fan base saying this is what we choose to do. So buy your tickets, donate to keep our team, right? And let's repeat next year, and let's try to run it back at home. Thank you. Go Devils. Activate the Valley, baby.
He also, he loves to say activate the
Valley. He gets
Valley.
it, man. This guy gets it.
He also talked about his players. There's a player next to him. I didn't see who it was.
Scatterbo was next to him, I think.
It didn't look like a white guy, but there was a guy next to him, a player nonetheless, and he just says like, hey, you like what he did? This is what it takes.
Out there, like I wore this shirt today, right, for the Sun Angel Collective for a purpose, is if you had fun watching him play and make those plays, like it was there all night. It was there all night because it's a different day and age in college football. And if that was something that we want to continue to do, then what's that saying? Pay the man his money, right? Isn't that like a saying? Like, pay the man his money. Like, pay these guys what they deserve to be paid. Because right now, our team is underpaid. And we're doing more with guys who just got it out the mud. But eventually, you should get what you deserve. And our guys deserve more. And that's why I wore this. Pay the man his money.
It's probably Jordan Tyson, who I think Tyson and Scatterbo were the two guys up on the stage who have both had incredible games. Levitt was good. It just, look, he's a coach that gets it, man. He gets what it takes in the modern world, what it's going to take to break through there. And that is a conference, when you look in the years to come, it's going to be an absolute flux. Like, who is the juggernaut in that conference? There's nobody standing in your way. If you could get your ducks in a row, get your resources figured out, he's young, he's energetic, he's a good recruiter. That conference is ripe for the taking, man, if you could figure your S out, and it looks like Arizona State does right now.
We'll talk more college football coming up next for the ticker. Shahan Jayaraja of CBSSports.com is going to join us. We'll talk with him, his thoughts on the SEC meltdown. Oregon going into their Washington week with the Big Ten title game looming. College football talk with Shahan Jayaraja next on The Fan.
Bud Light presents a rivalry week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Nothing easier to enjoy than that. Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, the Seattle Seahawks getting a huge win over the Arizona Cardinals, 16-6. The final. Geno Smith, first half touchdown pass to Jackson Smith-Njigba, and then in the second half, Seattle sealing it with a Kobe Bryant 69-yard pick six to extend the lead. Seattle now tied with the Arizona Cardinals for the lead in the NFC West. Some bad news elsewhere in the league for the Raiders. Quarterback Gardner Minshew suffering a season-ending broken left collarbone in their loss to the Denver Broncos, likely turning now to Desmond Ridder or Aiden O'Connell under center, but Daniel Jones still unsigned right now as a free agent quarterback. Week 12 of the NFL season wrapping up with Monday Night Football tonight. The Chargers hosting the Ravens in the latest iteration of the Harbaugh Bowl. Baltimore, a 2.5-point favorite there, kickoff at 5:15 on ABC. And in the association, the 7-10 Blazers back in action tonight, taking on the Grizzlies in Memphis for Game 4 of a 5-game road trip. Portland, an 8.5-point underdog. Tip-off at 5 p.m. on KATU, Charge Channel 2.2. And the Oregon State Beavers hitting the court to face North Texas on the road as a 6.5-point underdog. Tip-off for that one at 5 on ESPN+. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schulte at the 1080 The Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Jump back to earlier parts of your favorite fan shows on the Odyssey app, the only world of sports, some stories can slip through the cracks.
Now, before we do this, let's go over the ground rules.
Pelican Brewing presents the Daily Ticker, where Dirt and Sprague hit the big stories you've heard about, and some you haven't.
How'd you do that? Actually, I'm not even mad. It's amazing.
The Daily Ticker with Dirt and Sprague is poured by Pelican Brewing. Celebrate the season with a Northwest tradition, Bad Santa Cascadian Dark Ale. Pelican Brewing, born at the beach.
Today's Daily Ticker brought to you by Pelican Brewing Company. Whether you're on the nice list or the naughty list, celebrate the season with Pelican's festive brew, Bad Santa Cascadian Dark Ale. What a weekend in college football we had, and that's where we go for the Daily Ticker today with our good friend Shahan Jayaraja. He's a national college football writer for CBS Sports. You can go give him a follow on Twitter. Shahan, thanks for the time this morning, man. I want to start, so much is being made of the SEC implosion and pointing and laughing at them, and they might only get 3 teams into the playoff now.
It was glorious.
I'm curious who, out of that rubble, who was the biggest winner for you? Because it felt like we talked all week. If you would have told me Friday that Indiana, Ohio State would have almost been an afterthought for our show on Monday, I would have called you an idiot. But we haven't hardly even talked about it yet. Who ended up being the biggest winner out of the SEC rubble in your mind in the college football world?
Well, I think that the number one winner, actually, I guess you could say 2 teams in the same state, are the 2 teams in the state of Indiana, of course, being Notre Dame and also the University of Indiana. I think that after what happened this past week, both are essentially locks into the field at this point. There was conversation, of course, about an 11-1 Indiana that maybe doesn't have a lot of good wins, potentially getting left out, but that's completely off the table now. There are just not enough teams that have a chance. The other team that I'd point to is actually the school down the street from me here in Dallas, Texas, and that's SMU. I think that SMU is also in tremendous position as even a conference championship game loser at 11-2 to get into the field. And I'd even throw Clemson in there as a 2-loss team that might not even make the conference championship game in the ACC. Suddenly, if you are on the bubble right now, there's so much more space than there was just a couple days ago where we were having 5 or 6 SEC teams fighting for a spot. Well, now there are 3 that are certainly going to get in. And after that, the rest of these teams have kind of gone further in the line.
Shahan, do you think if Texas does lose this weekend, I don't know if I think it's going to happen. Do you think if Texas loses and doesn't go to the SEC title game but finishes with 2 losses, they're in the playoff?
I do. Look, the one thing that you have to look at is that they also are in the boat of not having really any good wins. They lost by 15 points at home against Georgia in really their only big game of the season. Now, look, it's not their fault that Oklahoma and Michigan have turned out to be absolutely awful, but it is reality. And so I do think, though, that even if they lose that game, assuming that they don't get destroyed, for example, by Texas A&M, which I certainly don't anticipate happening, I think that they're in, but when you compare them resume to resume, their resume will look a whole lot more like an Indiana than it even will like, let's say, a Notre Dame or some of these other teams that might be in the 1 to 2 loss range. So I think they'll be in, but they probably will be somewhere in like the 9, 10, 11 range. And I don't think that they'd get to host a home playoff game.
Yeah. It's interesting because this weekend in the SEC, I'm not surprised at all that Ole Miss lost. They've been a weird team at times. Florida is kind of trending in the right direction with DJ Lagway. Same goes with A&M. We saw them get body bagged by South Carolina. So them going on the road to Auburn and losing in a tight game, not that big of a shock. The way the Alabama game played out was genuinely shocking for me. Not scoring an offensive touchdown, just looking lost offensively after it felt like the weeks previous they had found their identity and maybe hit their high gear or all cylinders on that side of the ball. What did you make of that game, the fallout for it? And I know Alabama isn't technically eliminated yet if they win this weekend, depending on how the other dominoes fall, but a really tough loss for them in Tuscaloosa this weekend.
Yeah, well, and I think that this was just such a shocking performance because of how bad Oklahoma has been this year, too. Of course, they've had a good defense, but I also think that their defense is maybe a little bit overvalued as well. But their offense has just been one of the worst in the entire country for the entire season. And look, when you look at the final numbers, it mostly came down to an 8-minute stretch in the middle of the game where Jalen Milroe throws one interception that sets up a touchdown, where he throws a pick six. And then where Oklahoma puts together really its only consistent offensive drive of the game. The thing that's been a shock to me in that game was just the level of inconsistency of that Alabama offense. You kind of feel like, well, okay, with Ryan Williams, with Jalen Milroe, with, a couple good running backs, like at least you're going to be able to, like you could have one drive that you put together where you average 4 yards per carry and grind your way down the field, maybe have a 7-minute drive where you just get into the end zone. And it just never happened. I think they got a little pass happy at times with Jalen Milroe. I think that, again, the thing with Milroe is that when he is on, he is as good as anybody in college football. I mean, you even saw that touchdown pass that he threw that was overturned wrongly, in my opinion, on 4th down. That was just such a crazy throw, and he's just capable of stuff like that, especially with a guy like Ryan Williams on the other end. But they just weren't able to do it, and that was a little bit of a shock to me. Now, look, I don't think Alabama's a very good team. I think that even when they were number 6 in the country, they have been exposed at times this year. And frankly, look, I think Georgia's very good, but you start to look around some of the SEC resumes and you start to say, well, I think you look at Alabama being number 6, you look at Ole Miss being number 11, it's kind of because they just beat Georgia. And, and again, Georgia's very good, but you look at the rest of their resumes to an extent, and they just really haven't been that special to this point. So I certainly didn't expect them to lose by 3 touchdowns on the road against Oklahoma, but this is where we're at now.
Amen. We've had 20 straight years of not being able to crap on that conference, so I'm glad we finally have a season. I'll probably still win the title, but it still feels good today to do it nonetheless. Sean, let me ask you, if everybody stays relatively healthy, if Oregon beats Washington this weekend, which I think Dan Lanning is really licking his chops to do given what happened last year and the year prior, if Oregon wins out and goes to the Big Ten title game, even without knowing the results, are you going to pick Oregon to win the playoff?
Yes, it's a great question. I think that Oregon and Ohio State, to me, are the 2 top teams in the country. I think that there's a notable gap between them two and everybody else. So I do think that, I go back and forth. I'd say in the preseason and the midseason, I picked Ohio State. I think, though, that the consistency that Oregon's played with in a year that nobody's really played consistently this year is something that I think that you have to point to. I think that offensively, they're a lot more consistent than Ohio State, even if Ohio State has some of those dynamic pieces. And the other piece, too, is that you look at Ohio State's offensive line issues. They have, of course, lost 2 of their top 3 guys on the offensive line, and left tackle Josh Simmons and center Seth McLaughlin. Whereas Oregon, it kind of feels like they're peaking right now. It feels like they have a more consistent passing game right now with the way that Evan Stewart has stepped up and Tez Johnson coming back. And, of course, I think that Jordan James has only emerged as a running back over there. So, it'll definitely be close whenever we kind of head into the playoff between Oregon and Ohio State for me. I probably lean Ohio State by a little bit because of how good their defense is, but we're going to get to see this rematch most likely in Indianapolis, and it would not surprise me if it goes the other direction.
Outside of those 2 teams, I've kind of looked at it all year. I remember arguing a month ago. I had a hard time seeing the champion come from outside the collective of Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, and Georgia. And at times, some of those teams have made me question that, or other teams have played well and made me question, should I put them in there? Is there a team outside of that top kind of trio that we all look at that you see maybe making a run that's a dark horse in the playoff, or do you think it'll be a lot of chalk, a lot of Oregon, Ohio State, Georgia, Texas kind of stuff?
Well, I think that the most interesting team heading into the field is going to be Notre Dame. And look, we've kind of said for years, right? Notre Dame, they hit this level, but they can't necessarily compete with the top talent. And the other piece, too, is that they've lost some key guys in the trenches as well on both the offensive and defensive line to injury, but they just keep getting better, and they just keep being more dynamic. And I look at Notre Dame right now, especially in the running game. They are running the ball at an incredibly high level. I think that Riley Leonard is the type of quarterback who, I don't know if he's going to live up to some of the NFL expectations that he had coming into the year, but he is the perfect type of quarterback for what Notre Dame is running right now with his ability to both run and throw the ball. I think that their receivers have improved. And so, look, they are a buzzsaw right now. They haven't played a great team in several weeks, but when you don't play great teams, what we want you to see is we want you to destroy them. And Notre Dame has generally done that. So I think that that's a team with the ability to potentially jump up and potentially cause some issues in the title race. I think that one other team that I'm just like, I don't know if they have the talent to necessarily jump up to the top level, but I'm going to keep a close eye on them, is SMU. I think that SMU is a more complete team than anybody realizes. They've actually been led by their defense for much of the season, but when you look at their offense, I mean, Kevin Jennings is, Nick Saban called it, the most underrated player in America right now. I think that people are starting to understand just how good he's been. You know, they got a great running back in Brashard Smith as well, but they've been able to win games with their defense as well. You know, they shut out Virginia for, I believe, 56 minutes last week, and Virginia has issues, but like they're able to put up some points in a hurry. So I think that they are a team that, you know, again, I don't know how they're going to handle when we get into the Oregon, Ohio State, Texas of the world, but like I think that they're complete enough that you can't completely count them out either.
In the Power Four, as quickly as possible, because we're kind of against it. Hey, throwing this at you and asking for a quick answer. Who is the biggest fraud in your mind?
The biggest fraud in my mind. That's a great question. I mean, I think that obviously Alabama to an extent has been exposed to this point. You know, I will also throw out Miami. I think that Miami's defense is just a huge issue right now, and I don't know that it's going to get fixed before the playoffs.
Yeah, Cam Ward's good, but they can't get many stops on the other side of the ball. Shehan Jayaraja, one of our favorites, national college football writer for CBS Sports. Go give him a follow on Twitter at Shehan Jayaraja. Thanks so much for the time, man. Enjoy all the chaos in the coming weeks, and hopefully we can do this again soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
There you go. A little college football conversation. It is an interesting race in the final couple of weeks of the regular season. Let's take a look at the picture, get a little bit into that Ohio State-Indiana game, which we haven't really talked at all about yet. That happened this weekend as well. Today's Daily Ticker brought to you by Pelican Brewing Company. Whether you're on the nice list or the naughty list, celebrate the season with Pelican's festive brew, Bad Santa Cascadian Dark Ale. Ho, ho, ho. A little more college football talk next on The Fan.
Who's stinking it up?
Do not go in there.
It's time for Who's Stinking It Up, a sports lowlight that's ripped from the headlines.
We couldn't do diddly poo.
Brought to you by Three Mountains Home Services. Schedule your appointment online at threemountainshomservices.com.
High throw is picked off. It's McKinney again. Xavier McKinney blocks. Down the sideline he goes. Finally knocked out of bounds inside the 25.
Yeah, just an absolute dud on an NFL weekend so far. Fox Sports on the call there. Xavier McKinney picked 6 on Brandon Allen, who broke his finger 2 weeks ago, and Kyle Shanahan still went with him.
Yeah.
Niners are in last place in the division.
They're 5-6. They're in last place in the division. Still only a game out of first place, though. So they got that going for them, but they're a dumpster right now. That was a horrible day of NFL football.
It was. Who's stinking it up? My Niners. They're terrible. Brought to you by Three Mountains Home Services. Make your home services delightful at the pros tackle the project you need completed. Schedule your appointment online. Three Mountains Home Services. That's threemountainshomservices.com.
Or
Garge.
Bud Light presents a rivalry week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Nothing easier to enjoy than that. Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy.
On 1080 The Fan.
All right, welcome back in. Happy Football Monday to everybody out there. Happy Thanksgiving week.
Sorry about the non-NFL conversations today.
We'll get to a little. I mean, the NFL sucked yesterday. That's part of it as
wasn't
well.
very
Like
good.
it was one of the best weekends, and I know we say that. I'm caught in the moment. I don't care, dude. I love college football more than anything on this planet, and this weekend was awesome.
Your poor wife and son.
I love them. They're great. College football is incredible. It was like every second of it was great. From the morning, Indiana, Ohio State, all the drama. The Indiana fans who were all getting excited when they scored that. They went 3 and out. Ohio State did on their opening drive. Indiana storms down the field and scores.
I know.
All the Indiana crowds riled up and Twitter's blowing up. It's like that game was going on. You had Ole Miss, Florida going down to the wire. You had 12:30 slates. It was deciding the Big 12. Late games. SEC's crumbling left and right.
Yeah.
It's an unbelievable day of college football. And then the NFL was like, we have one matchup of winning teams. Oh, Cowboys Commanders got exciting in the final seconds.
But nobody cares about that game because
cares.
the Cowboys suck.
The NFL sucked yesterday. It's okay to say when the NFL sucks. It was terrible. You didn't need to watch. Nothing important happened. Seahawks fans, congratulations. You're in first place. There you go. There's your NFL conversation.
Yeah, I think it'll be saved tonight when the Har Bowl goes on.
Great game tonight. It's the best game of the
Great
weekend.
game. We'll see if one team blows out the other. And quietly, while all that was ensuing in college football, I would argue very quietly, Penn State just squeaking out a 1-point win at Minnesota.
See, here's the thing, though, man. I'm with you on Penn State's overall resume.
I get it. I know a win is a win, all that stuff. You're not wrong. I hate that.
Here's the funny thing is, like, when we critique teams, like, so we'll do Texas. You put up a poll question. If Texas loses to A&M this weekend, which, by the way, would knock them out of the SEC title game. So the SEC championship game is now going to be Georgia versus the winner of Texas A&M.
Yes.
Where Georgia didn't have a hope in hell to go to the SEC title game a week ago because they had a head-to-head loss to Ole Miss. They had a head-to-head loss to Alabama. Alabama was in the driver's seat. All these teams lose, the dominoes fall. Here you go. Georgia's now the only known commodity, and the winner of Texas and Texas A&M will go. I totally get the critique against Texas. Lord knows I've led the charge. They don't have a great win on their schedule. They got blown out at home by Georgia. This would be another quality loss that they would, I guess, try and hang their hat on. They'd be 10-2. Should they go to the playoff is the question. My question to follow that up with, if the answer is no, who do we go with? Because we're quickly running out of teams to be in consideration for a 12-team playoff. And that's the funny thing about this expanded field and all these complaints about bias. Like, eventually the games will dictate themselves, and this will all kind of settle.
Yeah.
So Clemson right now in the AP poll is the number 12 team in the country at 9-2.
They're certainly the team that is looming because if they beat South Carolina, and Miami and SMU don't lose.
Yes, they're not going to the ACC title game, and they'd be 10-2.
The ACC will get 3 teams in.
You think Clemson should go over Texas? Would you pick them? Are they more deserving? Do you think they're better?
No, I guess what I'm saying is the reason I say 3, even though we know the ACC is not strong, I actually think Vandy could 100% beat Tennessee this weekend.
They could.
And if Vandy beats Tennessee, bye-bye Tennessee.
It'd be a third loss for Tennessee, similar to Bama and Ole Miss.
It'll be 2 losses against non-top 25 teams, too. So there's really no excuse there.
No.
Look, this is a weird thing that we're arguing because I kind of get to do the Dirt to Sprague thing from last year where I was like, Florida State's in if they win. And you said, oh, really? And you were 100% right. I said Texas was getting in with 2 losses. They're Texas. Because I don't know who you would take in. I don't know who you
I
put
would
in
have
there.
taken, at the time in the scenario, a 2-loss Bama, a 2-loss Ole Miss, a 2-loss. All those teams, in my mind, were ahead of Texas if they were to lose again.
And I didn't
But that's
think-
now a moot point because they all lost.
And I also didn't think those teams would go in unscathed. And I also just think Texas with 2 losses is like you can't leave them out to the committee's feelings. I don't know who it is or how it is. It is a certainly questionable look that a team has 0 top 25 wins, and the 2 games that they lose are to top 25 teams, and one of the teams that beat them went to the conference championship game, but they didn't.
Yep.
So, they don't have enough 2-loss teams to put in, so Texas does get in. Also, how do you pretzel and justify your way in on that explanation?
Well, again, at that point, it would be a debate of Texas or Clemson.
Penn State certainly also, by the way, has this. They're not going to the Big Ten title game.
No.
Unless one of Ohio State, Oregon craps the bed, and I don't think that's going to happen. So, Penn State's going to have 1 top 25 win, and that's the 25th ranked Illinois Illini, who should have lost this weekend. And yet they're just going to waltz their way right in with nobody really talking about it because they have one loss.
Because they've had a relatively easy schedule, and they didn't have to play Oregon, and they didn't have to play Indiana at the top of the Big Ten.
Yep.
So a lot of this is dictated on schedules and who you're playing. In the Big Ten, I made this argument last week, at the top of the conference, they haven't beaten up on each other because they haven't played each other. Ohio State's the only one that played the other top teams in that conference. They were the only ones to play Oregon, Penn State, and Indiana, whereas Penn State only played one of them, Oregon only played one of them, and Indiana only played one of them. But it comes down to a debate of, are we okay with Clemson making the playoff?
If they get past South Carolina, that's certainly a pretty good win.
That would be their best win of the year by
win.
a mile. Their previous best win of the year would be they got blown out by Georgia. The last time they played a ranked team was Louisville, and Louisville beat them. And Louisville, by the way, is no longer ranked.
Yep.
So their other best win on the year is Virginia Tech.
Yeah, not great.
So 10-2 Clemson, 10-2 Tech.
But
that might end up being the debate.
Is better than anything Texas or Penn State has.
Yeah, well, Penn State's not going anywhere at 11-1. You're not kicking them out of the playoff,
but
just like Notre Dame, who lost to Northern Illinois.
What I'm saying, though, is if you're going to make an argument for Clemson, even though I'm not a big Clemson guy, it's that win by themselves with 2 losses is better than anything on Texas's resume, Indiana's resume, and Penn State's resume.
Yeah, and Texas's argument would be, well, we lost to Georgia by a closer margin than you did, and we lost to A&M, who played in the SEC title game. That would be their argument that they would try to make there.
Loss margin.
Yes,
we
are.
I hate that.
You know we are, baby.
Stupid.
Somebody asking, does Clemson have a top 25 win? No, they do not have a top 25 win, but if they win this weekend, they will, because South Carolina's ranked in the top 25. We got a ton to get to in the final hour of the show, some more poll questions to get to. I want to talk a little bit about that Indiana-Ohio State game. Seemed very important, and then not as important as the day went on, but any takeaways there that might lead to thoughts on a rematch between Ohio State and Oregon in the Big Ten title game. A couple of NFL notes, including a great Monday night game. We got a loaded final hour. We're already there. Let's get to it next on The Fan.
Have a special somebody on your
.1080 The Fan, an Odyssey sports station. Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, the Seattle Seahawks getting a big divisional win over the Arizona Cardinals, 16-6 the final. It was a decent day for Geno Smith. Had a touchdown pass to Jackson Smith and Jigba in the first half. Kobe Bryant, though, the ceiling score with a 69-yard pick six in the third quarter. Seattle now tied atop the NFC West with the Arizona Cardinals. Bad news for the Vegas Raiders. Quarterback Gardner Minshew suffering a season-ending broken left collarbone in their loss to the Broncos. Head coach Antonio Pierce likely turning to Desmond Ridder or Aiden O'Connell, who just came off of injured reserve. Week 12 of the NFL season wrapping up tonight with Monday Night Football, with the Chargers hosting the Ravens in the latest iteration of the Harbaugh Bowl. Baltimore a 2.5-point favorite. Kickoff at 5:15 on ABC. And the kickoff for the number 1 Oregon Ducks final regular season game finally announced yesterday. It's going to be at 4:30 p.m. on NBC at Autzen Stadium versus the Washington Huskies. Of course, coverage getting going right here on The Fan at noon on Saturday. And in the association, the 7-10 Blazers back in action tonight, taking on the Grizzlies in Memphis for Game 4 of a 5-game set on the road. Tip-off at 5 p.m. on KATU Charge, Channel 2.2. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schulte at the 1080 The Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Got a smart speaker? It's The Fan in your office and every room of your home. Tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan. Washington.
It's 7:30 in the morning. I'm barely awake. I haven't even finished my cup of coffee, and so, yeah, I'm full of animosity and hatred.
Oregon.
Huskies can't stop the clock. This game's going to be over. And Oregon has come to Seattle. They're going to come out on top.
Bud Light presents a Rivalry Week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Nothing easier to enjoy than that. Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Enjoy responsibly, 21 plus.
Rivalry Week with Dirt and Sprague on the Odyssey app and 1080.
The Warriors control the atmosphere.
The Fan.
Hey, let's do this. Final hour, Dirt and Sprague here on Portland Sports Leader, 1080 The Fan, 99.5 HD2, the Odyssey app, live on YouTube. You know who we get tonight?
Who's got it better than us?
Hopefully the Ravens minus 2.5.
We got the Harbaugh tonight on Monday Night Football.
Yes, we do.
It's a good
I'm
way
excited
to
for it.
Cap off the NFL slate.
Back-to-back primetime games in L.A.
For the chart, and last night too, Sunday night. That's right, and for the Chargers who were on
I was talking about
primetime.
the Chargers, but you're right. Yeah, last night with the Rams.
I was thinking about that,
Ramming it.
watching the Ram game last night.
Ooh, you watched most of that?
I had
a
it
good
on.
one.
It was fine.
I'll just continue to say, man, I'm not kidding. Saquon Barkley is one of the more underpaid and maybe the best contract in pro sports.
A couple of stats for you. Saquon Barkley, now at this point in the game, I don't know how much he ended up with, had 255 rushing yards. I don't know what his final tally was. Might have been more than that, or I can't remember if that was at the end of the game. But I think it was after his long 70-yard touchdown run that he had. His 255 rushing yards was more than the entire Giants offense gained through run and pass. They had a total of 245 yards of offense on Sunday.
I put a lot of money on my account on the Bucks minus 6. That was glorious yesterday.
That thing was over about 4 minutes into it. Look at that. This looks like a team that is openly quit.
Yep.
Also on Saquon Barkley, since you brought him up, a couple of fun factoids for you.
Mm-hmm.
Most scrimmage yards since 2000 through 11 games. He now ranks 6th on that list. The only guys with more scrimmage yards, Priest Holmes in 2002, Christian McCaffrey in 2019, Chris Johnson in 2009, DeMarco Murray 2014, and a fun flashback, Amon Green in 2003.
Ooh. Him and Derrick Henry have been the only great, amazing things of my fantasy football team this year. He single-handedly won my
Carrying
week.
you through the week.
He gave me 45 points last night. He is on track for 2,100 rushing yards and 25 plus total yards.
How do you feel, anybody who took Christian McCaffrey over him in their fantasy draft?
About the same when I took Saquon the 2 years he got injured while he played
Yeah.
in New York.
It's all about that, right?
You
It's
just
just
never
returning the
know,
favor,
man.
right? Yeah.
Since we're on a bit of a factoid segment, there were a couple of college football ones I wanted to give you. This one blew my mind, and I want to see if it blows your mind. Kentucky played at Texas this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
It was, whatever. Texas ended up pulling away. It wasn't beautiful, but they won the game. I think 24-10 was the final. And they go into their showdown with A&M this weekend. They have been around Kentucky football since 1881. They've been playing football for 143 years. Okay, tracking so far. This week's game in Austin, Texas, was the furthest they've ever traveled for a game.
Really?
No, it wasn't.
What?
They've never had a non-conference game?
No, further than Austin, Texas.
Really?
Further than Austin, Texas, yes.
What the hell are we doing?
I mean, that kind of sums up that conference in general.
I saw that and I'm like, wait a minute. And I was looking through and people were like responding, like they just never schedule West Coast non-conference games. They played home.
They've never had a bowl game somewhere random?
Never had a bowl game on the West Coast because the SEC doesn't have like Holiday Bowl or, random LA Bowl ties. They're going to bowl games that are usually in Carolina or Florida or, that's where they play. They've never played a game further away from
That's insane.
than Austin, Texas.
We don't have cooties west of the Rocky
Isn't that
Mountains.
just a wild? Like,
There's really
so
only one
weird.
state between them if you look at the right
it's
angles.
not that far away.
No.
That's the whole thing. Like, what? And I think the previous furthest they had traveled was A&M.
That is such an elitist mentality. They can get whatever reason out there that they want, but you know what? It's because they've never been here. They don't know how great of a part of the country is. That's stupid.
I mean, they don't want to travel because they're, who knows why. But yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with not wanting to come to the West Coast. They don't have to. They just schedule their games in their bubble and they play in their bubble.
Look, I don't want to derail what you have planned to talk about here, but what I would say, though, is one of my big takeaways, aside from just having a weekend of feeling right, even if they win the national championship, if our beloved Pac-12, which existed last year and no longer exists as it was,
yes,
the ACC, the Big Ten, or the Big 12, if any of those conferences have what happens to the SEC this weekend to them, they're called weak, they cannibalize themselves, they're not taken seriously. But it happens in that conference, and we're still, I think, a lot of people waking up basically saying, like, well, they have the best team. Or, no, maybe we should make the argument for A&M to be in the playoff, even if that's not realistic. And that was kind of my smile on Saturday, was watching all three of them, because I was texting a buddy. We were watching that Auburn game, and I go, it feels so disgusting to be rooting for Hugh Freeze. This is the grossest thing I've done in sports in a long time. And he said, same. And so they finally get that win in the fourth overtime. And I just chuckle because I remember years where the Pac-12 would have some chaos. And the narrative on Monday from national pundits, including Paul Feinbaum, let's go to callers, as I just sit here and let them do my show for me. Lucy, down in the South, you're on Paul Feinbaum Show.
We can't trust your ass now.
Would have loved to have him on the ticker today.
That's the ugliest little sister on the block.
They always highlighted how bad the conference was when they had weekends like that. And so for a weekend, I got to just enjoy them cannibalizing themselves and looking basically all year pretty mediocre.
Yeah, the Big Ten is likely going to get more teams in the college football playoff than the SEC.
And you can argue if that's right or not, but I'm sorry. This is where I'll go back. It's about what you do on the field.
The games matter.
Indiana and Penn State have weak schedules.
Yeah.
They've won their games. They haven't lost to collectively 5 and 14 conference opponents.
No, they have not. The games matter, and that was one of the things that I try to remind people. We can get caught up in hypothetical debates. What happens if this team wins out or this team loses or this team wins? At the end of the day, the argument last week that bothered me the most was the idea that games don't matter, because these games matter now, and all these teams are likely not going to get to the playoff unless a bunch of other dominoes fall. What did we make of Indiana at Ohio State? That was a game that it seemed like the biggest game of the weekend and then became an afterthought as the day went on, because Indiana is now locked into a college football playoff spot, and so there's no point in debating their merit or resume or quality of wins or quality of losses.
Yeah.
They got off to a great start. Special teams doomed them. Could not throw the ball to save their lives. They lost 38-15 at Ohio State.
Yeah, they were, I mean, when that punter missed the snap right through his hands, it was not a great day. That first series with Indiana, I thought, all right, here they go. Signetti's figured it out. The offensive line held their own. He had pass protection.
A couple of DPI calls helped him a little bit.
I have to go look at the amount of yards he threw on that opening drive when they scored, because I don't know if he threw more than 70 yards the rest of the game. I want to first just give full credit. That Ohio State defensive line, the scheme, the blitzing, they were a nightmare for Indiana. So Ohio State won that game. Indiana completely no-showed. Now, the final doesn't, I think, result in what that game looked like for most of it, but that was big dud. I thought after that first series, Indiana can hang. Here we go.
Yeah.
Ohio State said, yeah, hold our beer, and they just demolished them the rest of the way.
To answer your question, he had 32 passing yards on the opening drive of the game. Yeah. So he had, 36 the rest of the game?
Yeah.
And that was, I think, 3 of his completions came on the opening drive, so he had 5 completions the rest of the game. Their drive chart after that opening drive 6 plays punt, 3 plays minus 7 yards punt, 8 plays minus 4 yard turnover on downs. End of the first half, 3 plays, 8 yards punt. Or no, excuse me, they had the punt return touchdown on their opening drive. So 3 plays, 2 yards, punt return touchdown, 3 and out, 5 plays, 32 yards punt, 3 plays, negative 11 yards punt, and then they had the touchdown drive that they put together when the game was 31-7. I did see Indiana fan getting upset with Ryan Day for tacking on the final score. That then led a lot of people to pull up videos of them scoring a touchdown with 90 seconds left, up 49-7 on Nebraska to make it 56-7. So you get the late game stuff that ends up causing a little controversy. They were unquestionably, though, like what we can talk about SMU, we can talk about all these other schools. Like this was the whole debate of if you have this collection of SEC teams that win out with 10-2 records against an Indiana team, if this is the way the game goes for them, who deserves to be in? Indiana ended up being the biggest winner of this weekend.
They did.
Because there's not a debate that exists. They play Purdue this weekend.
And
Now, if
you
you lose to Purdue, then maybe it's a different conversation because Purdue is god-awful and damn near beat Jonathan Smith on Friday night. But that whole thing is gone. It's moot. It's not a point anymore. Indiana's a lock to make the college football playoff. Doesn't matter how the game ended up going for them. I think that just showed you that there's a different level between truly elite teams and an Indiana who is an awesome story, but they have beaten literally nobody this year. And I'm curious to see, depending on their matchup, who they get in a first round. They got a great shot to host a playoff game now. What that would mean for them, their program, their university, but I wasn't necessarily surprised by the outcome of that game.
No, I wasn't either. We had talked about that a little off air of like, if they're struggling against Michigan,
up front on the offensive line. That's the concern.
And they escaped Michigan at home. What are they going to be against Ohio State? And, I wanted to believe. And that first drive gave belief. But I they're going to smoke Purdue. Purdue's terrible. They're going to get in. They're at 5 going into the week.
It's not a debate.
They didn't lose by 40. They didn't certainly compete for most of that game, but they didn't lose by 40.
I actually thought their coach, to be honest with you, coached to if I felt like at times I was watching a soccer game where it was
Coaching
like an aggregate goal thing, and he's like, dude, we just don't need to give up a goal, so we're just gonna. They had a moment where they called a timeout in plus territory. I want to say the game was 21-7 at the time, or maybe it was 28-7. I can't remember. But it was in the second half, and they were in plus territory, and they punted on like the 45-yard line.
Yeah.
Which that screamed to me, let's make them go 90 yards, eat up more clock. We know we're not going to win the game, but if we give them a short field, it could be 35-7, and then it looks worse on paper.
Now, Bud Elliott, who writes for 24/7, he put out a college football playoff prediction, and so hold for the chaos that may ensue this coming weekend.
Yeah.
He's got your Ducks losing to Ohio State in the Big Ten title game.
Which would mean they would be the 5 seed if it happens.
He has them hosting Indiana.
Be great. Bring them on.
God, that'd be a fun game.
Bring them on. Bring on the Hoosiers. I don't know why Indiana would fall outside of the top whatever.
Because I think what he's saying is the committee does not respect them that much.
Yeah.
Which I don't think he's necessarily wrong.
I mean, they were number 5 last week.
I know, but it took them 2 weeks to jump to 5. What were they initially? 8?
They
right?
were 8.
9?
They were down there a little bit.
So I just think Indiana's going to get in if they don't crap the bed against Purdue because of all of the chaos that ensued. Now, if more happens, I don't know how you sort out who gets in. Is there a 3-loss team? Is there 3 ACC teams? Is there 2 Big 12 teams?
Yeah. I highly doubt it, but it could be.
I highly doubt it as well, but I don't know who's going to win and lose at this point.
No, I also have the mentality, too, for SMU Miami, and I said this for the SEC, and I'm going to say it for the other conferences. A&M is the only outlier in this case because they're a 3-loss team that could be going to the SEC championship game, but I also think you don't want to set the precedent in year 1 where you're punishing the team that loses that game. And so if Miami and SMU go to the ACC title game, they're both 11-1. Miami's not guaranteed to win this weekend. They're on the road at Syracuse. Syracuse has been feisty. Lord knows Miami has played in weird games away from home this year
that
and at
final
home.
score does not indicate how weird that game was Miami was in this weekend.
That was a competitive game for a while, and then they pulled away late. They got a pick 6.
Piled it on right consecutively.
That helped. And SMU's at home against Cal, so they should win that game. But again, you never know. I thought Oklahoma was going to lose to Alabama. If they both go in at 11-1, though, I don't think the loser of that game should be punished by losing a playoff spot because you want there to be a reward for that game of home field advantage. You do not want there to be a punishment because that's when it creates this conversation of why are we even playing that game then? Why is another team sitting at home, not playing in a conference championship game, now getting to go to the playoff, but we had to go play a top 5 team and now we can't go compete? This is ridiculous. It's costing us money. So I think if they both win this weekend, they're both in the playoff, and the picture is starting to crystallize a little bit out of the weekend in the SEC. On the outside looking in, the Big Ten's going to get more teams likely into the playoff. than the SEC. I got a couple other NFL notes that we haven't got to yet today. We'll dive into next. I want to get to the Harbaugh Bowl tonight on Monday Night Football. Another opportunity for the Chargers. Can the Ravens bounce back with a nice win? Tons still to get to back after this on The Fan.
It's time for a sports injury report. The injuries and rehab that impact the success of sports teams. Brought to you by Rock Orthopedic.
Abdullah in there with the block. They bring 5, 6. Minshew. Oh, look at him. Get him, Barton. Cooper all over the Raider quarterback, who's slow to get up back at the 18. Ooh.
That is yesterday on CBS, Gardner Minshew going down with a collarbone. He's done for the year. Bo Nix, another nice win for the Broncos on the road.
Broncos do it again against a bad Raider team, man. They took full advantage, and they dominated them for the most part. A bad injury for Gardner. You felt for him. He wasn't having a good year. The Raiders are just a mess.
They're going to draft a quarterback. That's what they need to do. Sports Injury Report presented by Rock Orthopedic Board-certified specialists who diagnose and treat the widest range of orthopedic cases with care and expertise. To schedule an appointment with Dr. Brian Puskis, visit rocpdx.com.
Check. Bud Light presents a rivalry week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Nothing easier to enjoy than that. Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy.
On 1080 The Fan.
We'll get into a bit of NFL recap coming up bottom of the hour. Harbowl as well.
We're taking a nap, Paul. We're taking a nap.
Just a few more leftover thoughts here. I'm going through all my notes to make sure I get it all out. Going to empty the chamber today. I know it's not going to happen, and it's a bit over the top and probably not deserved. There was a small part of me, though, that thought for Coach of the Year, Billy Napier should get at least like one vote.
Nah.
Give him one. Nah. Give him one vote.
Nope.
Everybody, that guy was fired. He was left for dead. Everybody mocked him and made fun of him. We had paid on the week after the Miami-Florida game, and Mario Cristobal was walking over telling all the Florida recruits, come to Miami. This is where you win in the state. And he's going to go to the playoff this year. Mm-hmm. So he gets the short-term laugh.
Well, we'll see, man.
Yeah,
they could lose to Syracuse. They're not a consistent, great top-ranked team.
You lose that game, I believe then Clemson would go to the ACC title game in their stead because that would be the second conference loss for Miami. And where they're at now compared to where they were 6 to 8 weeks ago is remarkable. It sounds like they're closing strong going into National Signing Day. They have beaten back-to-back ranked teams to be 6-5. They're going to go 7-5. If I told you 4 games into the season that Florida was going to go 7-5 this year, never in a million years would I would have believed it. So he's not going to win. It's going to go to Signetti, or a lot of Dion's had a great year. A lot of other really good stories. Dillingham at ASU.
Sataki.
I just wanted to take a moment to get like that. Yeah. It is so easy in modern college football to, when your season goes that way, things implode. Players hit the portal. Everybody scatters. We're getting the hell out of here. You're getting fired.
Yeah.
He has found a way to get those guys pulling in the same direction, and they now seemingly have momentum as a program.
I wouldn't give him a single vote. You're 6-5. Your record says what you are, but he has turned it around with Lagway. And I thought it was a fair thing on the broadcast questioning what they were doing. They were hiking the ball with 18 seconds on their play clock. I'm like, you got to kill the clock. What are you doing here?
Yeah.
There are little things like that make me worry about how good they can truly be. But I've watched this kid now a couple weeks. Good Lord. Does he not look the part? He's going to be the reason they're going to come into next year with a high ranking.
Yes, he is.
And I won't blame anybody for wanting to do that. I'm certainly with you. It probably feels great for him. He basically cried on the post-game interview.
He did. They're going to be Florida State this weekend. They'll be 7-5 to finish the year.
They're going to trounce Florida State because you need to be sending in-state messages. Florida State is buried, dead. They're done. I don't know what they're going to do with Norvell.
Talk about losing recruits. They are not finishing strong.
I actually give a little more credit to their AD because Napier doing this is like he played the 5-star kid. He did the obvious thing when you're down. The AD, in the midst of them being down, everybody saying, fire this dude, was like, I'm not firing him. And we called it out on the show. I laughed about that. Like, what are you doing? You know what? It took stones in that moment for Strickland to stick by his coach, and he did. Now, again, 7-5, not amazing, but they had debatably the hardest schedule in the whole sport this year.
Yes.
They had a 5-star quarterback finally get some playing time and show that, like, when he's on the field, he's a difference maker. And they'll go into next year with a lot of respect coming into the season.
This is that weird thing that you're going to get in modern football where schedules are so imbalanced and it's going to make it so hard to judge. Their losses this year, Miami killed them. Miami could win the ACC and go to the college football playoff. Texas A&M beat them. Texas A&M is still alive to win the SEC. Tennessee likely going to be 10-2 in a college football playoff team. Georgia potentially the SEC champion, or at least going to the SEC championship game. And Texas potentially go. Like, those are their 5 losses that they've had this year. A lot of these SEC teams have lost games. Alabama, for example, Tennessee, for example, to bottom tier teams like Oklahoma or Auburn or Arkansas. Florida has not done that. All of their losses are to teams who are either in the college football playoff or still alive to make the college football playoff.
Yeah.
And that's why this stuff is so hard to judge. Like, you can give me Kenny Dillingham having a better win-loss record. I don't disagree with you there. You are what your record says you are. That's the way we judge it. If he had to play Florida's schedule, they have the same record. There's no chance they're 8-2 at this point in the year. They were handled the toughest schedule arguably in college football history. To be 6-5, really cool, and they got Florida State this weekend, and they will win that game by 800 points. Penn State faking a punt. Do we give James Franklin credit for that? Ended up that was a massive play in that game.
It was big play in the game, so I give him credit for it. But damn it, was I rooting for them to lose that game?
That we were one play away from just utter chaos. If Penn State would have lost,
we were.
It was 26-25. Penn State led 4th and 1 on their own, about 35-yard line. 3 minutes and 56 seconds to go in the game. And if they would have punted, Minnesota settled for a field goal on their previous drive, which made me pissed because there's no guarantee you're going to get the ball back. I would have gone for it. They were down by 4, kicked a field goal to make it a 1-point game. And that fake punt ended up allowing Penn State to essentially ice the rest of the game and win it.
What is Penn State in a playoff conversation to you? Are they a one and done?
I don't know how to feel because on the one hand, we're trying to argue there's no elite teams and it seems wide open and the SEC isn't that good. And then on the other, it's like, well, Penn State doesn't have a chance in hell to win. Notre Dame doesn't have a chance. I don't know. I feel like it's way more wide open than I've given it credit for. And maybe it ends up being as simple as Oregon or Ohio State or Georgia.
If Penn State gets like an Arizona State.
I mean, I would pick Penn State to win that game in a landslide, to be honest with you.
Okay.
With what they could do defensively.
SMU?
Yeah. I would pick them to beat SMU in a landslide.
Indiana?
I would pick them to beat Indiana in a blowout.
Then why was James Franklin on the hot seat after the Ohio State loss 4 weeks ago?
Because he can't win the one game that matters. That's the one game that matters for him.
Then is he going to win this game? Probably not.
But there's a there is a massive difference in talent between Arizona State and Ohio State. Ohio State has a $20 million roster with like 15 NFL draft picks on it.
Well, but
Arizona State's a great story. They belong in the college football playoff. Like comparing those two is night and day different.
Well, they can run the football, though.
They can.
I think I'm going to differ with you slightly here. Like, you might end up being right if they get the right matchup at home in the first round. I don't know what about Penn State screams are going to blow out all these other playoff teams, though.
Look, blowout might be too strong of a word. I think defensively they are very good, and you will have a hard time if you're not a legitimate offensive line like
Their
what we
problem
saw.
is offense. They're not I think a very elite offense.
No, but they've also run it up on basically every defense they played this year, sans Ohio State. Now, they didn't this weekend, but I'm not going to criticize you for it. I mean, they just beat Washington 35-6 a couple weeks ago. They beat Purdue 49-10. They've had blowout wins at times this year.
Yeah.
So do I think Penn State's going to win a national championship? No, but I also think we're pretty wide open at this point. And with these SEC teams losing, like one of the big winners is all these other teams at the top, because we can argue their resumes and whether they deserve to be in, that's valid. The talent profile of those teams is better than a lot of these teams. And so Arizona State and SMU getting into the playoff is going to make the pathway easier for these teams at the top.
But I think the Indianas of the world have changed this, where we're looking at composite rank talent stuff, and we're saying this team has more of those, and they'll win. And I think what the season's proving is the portal has flipped all of this. That these teams that you look at and you say, well, that team's ranked here in recruiting, and they're ranked this preseason and for the first X amount of weeks, and then they lose.
Mm-hmm.
I think the portal changes all of this. I don't look at composite ranking stuff and say, well, this team should win. I don't, how much of that with the portal you're including versus are you combining the two? Are you just looking at high school recruiting? And that's why I don't look at Penn State and think like they'll blow out Arizona State, they'll blow out SMU, or they'll blow out Indiana. I've seen no real evidence of that. You cited Purdue. Like, that doesn't do anything for me. They have taken care of their business. Their defense isn't bad. I've also seen their offense look really, really suspect.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I've also seen Indiana go on the road and fail to basically get a first down for 3 quarters against Ohio State.
Yeah.
When there's a gap in talent at that level at the line of scrimmage. And that's usually where it affects you, where you can get by teams that don't have NFL guys up front if you're good enough in your pass. Like, Indiana was shredding everybody this year. They were one of the top passing offenses in the country. They shredded Washington. They put 56 on the board against Nebraska. They were blowing everybody out, moving up and down the field to these, and then you play an NFL defensive line, and you were sacked 8 times and had like 17 negative yard plays and a total of 68 passing yards. And so there's just a different level that I think Penn State defensively is at compared to some of these other teams. It's going to be fascinating, though. The picture is crystallizing. One last note on DeBoer, because they lost again this weekend. There's a lot of these floating around. Alabama's a 14-point favorite under Kalen DeBoer. They've lost twice in 8 games.
Mm-hmm.
Under Nick Saban, they had 3 losses in 139 games.
Yeah.
3 in 139. And there are 9 teams still alive in the Big 12 title race.
I tended to believe what Pate had said on his pod yesterday because I had to listen to that show. And I thought he took the right tone, the right approach, hey, maybe I was wrong on this. Like, I thought he did the right thing. Look, DeBoer is not going to go to a playoff, and they want him fired, and he may end up proving that he's not the right guy for that job. It's also year 1, and I kind of agree with what Pate said. I'm not going to act like that program was just tearing everybody apart the last couple of years of Saban.
No, lost in the playoff to Michigan last year.
Yeah, they were, and that was a debatable thing that you can certainly say, well, them almost beating Michigan proved they belong. Okay, I guess if you're going to point to losses as a reason a team belongs. But they were debatable if they should have been in that playoff versus what Florida State did as that go undefeated as a conference champion. So I kind of agree with it. I didn't look at Alabama the last couple years. Now, I know that they won titles not that long ago. They beat Georgia. But I didn't look at Alabama as this, like, invincible juggernaut that just steamrolled everybody until he retired.
Yeah, that definitely was not the case, man. Last couple of years, leaked oil a little bit. Remember they lost to Texas by double digits at home?
Yeah.
At the start of the season last year, that was a very rare thing for it to happen to Alabama. A lot of those numbers floating around. People in Alabama are not handling this very well.
That's going to be half of Paul Feinbaum's show is those callers in Alabama.
The entire day.
I'm in sports. Hell.
What was the quote from
Oklahoma.
earlier in the season when they lost? I don't want a post-game press conference. I just want to see somebody fired. That's usually how they
The
go.
honeymoon's over.
Well, that's been over for weeks.
Honeymoon's over, baby. Don't lose. They lose to Auburn this weekend in the Iron Bowl.
One thing he does, and they certainly can, the one thing he did at Washington, and it went his way, it's like a team with turnover luck. You win the turnover luck battle, guess what happens the next year usually? You don't win it.
Yeah.
He won it 2 years in a row at Washington, basically. Not turnovers, but the whole one-score close game stuff.
Yeah, a lot of not
He
fluky
largely
wins, but
won those games for 2 straight years.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the negative, I would say, of him. He plays way too many close games against teams that he shouldn't.
his team does not show up prepared in games that they
It's
should
weird.
blow out their opponent.
It's a weird thing. We know he's a genius. We know he's won everywhere he's gone. They just, every single week with them, it's like, oh, if it's not Mercer, they could lose.
They played Arizona State last year, the week after Oregon. Arizona State was one of the worst teams in the conference last year.
Yes, they were.
And they could not score an offensive touchdown at home.
A pick six won them that game.
A pick six with 2 minutes to go that Arizona State threw. It was like basically a 100-yard pick six
Should've
on
lost
fourth
to the
down.
Cougs at home.
They should have lost to the Cougs. Like, it doesn't make sense. And
No,
now
it
those
doesn't.
close games are starting to bite them. They no-showed at Oklahoma, and they lost this weekend. Let's get to some NFL nuggies, and then we'll close out with the Hard Bowl on Monday Night Football. And the Blazers are back in action tonight. That all still to come. First, your Schultz with SportsCenter.
Bud Light presents a rivalry week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Nothing easier to enjoy than that. Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
This update is brought to you by Laurelhurst Market Steakhouse and Butcher Shop. Grab your meat and save 10% on your Butcher Shop order when you dine in. Menus at laurelhurstmarket.com. First on the Fan, a huge divisional win for the Seattle Seahawks, beating the Arizona Cardinals 16-6 yesterday. Geno Smith hitting Jackson Smith and Jigba with a touchdown in the first half. Kobe Bryant, though, a 69-yard lead-extending pick six in the third quarter to seal it for the Seahawks. Seattle now tied with Arizona for the lead in the NFC West. Bad news for the Las Vegas Raiders, though. Quarterback Gardner Minshew suffering a season-ending broken left collarbone in their loss to the Denver Broncos. Head coach Antonio Pierce likely turning to Desmond Ridder or Aiden O'Connell under center. But quarterback Daniel Jones still on the free agent market. Week 12 of the NFL season wrapping up with Monday Night Football tonight. The Chargers host the Ravens in the latest iteration of the Harbaugh Bowl. Baltimore, a 2.5-point favorite. Kickoff set for 5:15 on ABC. In the association, the 7-10 Blazers back in action tonight, taking on the Grizzlies in Memphis for Game 4 of a 5-game road trip. Portland, an 8.5-point underdog, and no Donovan Clingan tonight. Tip-off set for 5 p.m. on KATU Charge, Channel 2.2. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schulte at the 1080 The Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Got a smart speaker? It's The Fan in your office and every room of your home. Tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan. Bud Light presents a Rivalry Week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Nothing easier to enjoy than that. Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy.
On 1080 The Fan.
Well, before we close with the Har Bowl, and the Blazers back in action tonight. They're in Memphis, taking on the Grizzlies, split this weekend. We had an NFL slate this weekend that did not include, according to now it might in the aftermath of it, depending on who won and lost the games. I don't believe there was a single game between two teams that went into it with a winning record. So you had like Seattle won, and now they're above 500. But going into the game, Seattle was 5-5. They were not above 500, I don't believe, going into the game. I think they were at 5. So the aftermath of some of the games might have led to both teams being over 500.
You are correct.
I don't think we had a single game between two teams with a winning record.
Yeah, none.
No.
Not
and
even.
we had a
Not
couple
even a one.
crazy upsets in Dallas and Tennessee.
Except for tonight.
Yeah, you had the Titans knock off the Texans. That was pretty wild.
You know, I actually thought the two stories from the weekend, three, because I want Saquon to be in that. He deserves it. My three takeaways from the weekend, one, Saquon Barkley. Two, I don't know how you're not impressed with what Detroit has done. You want to go watch a great coach, go watch the locker room speech that Dan Campbell gave yesterday, because I thought it was some of the best stuff I saw all weekend. He cited that they didn't win. They were like 0-11-1 on the road when he started. And then they won a game at Chicago. And since then, they're 16-5.
The betting favorite to win the Super Bowl.
And they should be. He is remarkable. He's everything I love about a coach. He teaches, he preaches, he doesn't blame, he doesn't deflect. I love that kind of coaching. And the other one is Bo Nix, who after their win against the Raiders and his game and the Commanders losing, Bo Nix right now, according to the NFL odds, is still the second favorite for Rookie of the Year, but it's plus 130. It was 4-1 going into the weekend.
Yes, it was.
And Daniels is now down to minus 110, and that was 5-1 going into Sunday.
Market is shrinking.
So Bo Nix, and we've cited their schedule. They have some crap teams on that schedule ahead. The Commanders do too, but I would have said that about Dallas going in, and they lost. So
yes, you can't lose that game.
They've lost 3 games in a row now.
You missed a PAT after a miracle touchdown.
That dude hadn't missed a PAT all year.
What are we
hadn't missed
doing,
one all
man?
year. Yeah, so Knicks gets Cleveland. That's a good defensive challenge.
Yep.
And then it's Indy. And then at Chargers, at Bengals, Chiefs. So actually he finishes with some difficult games there with some desperate teams.
Yes.
But he's playing really good football, and he has closed the margin pretty substantially in the offensive rookie there. Those were probably my 3 biggest, and my 4th one looming. I would love to see Baker Mayfield win a Super Bowl, because if a quarterback's going to run 30 yards down the field to lay a block up 30,
yeah,
I want that guy all day.
Baker Mayfield is so fun, man. That block on the Bucky Irving run was awesome.
His trolling of DeVito.
His trolling the DeVito thing. And after the game, he's like, dude, I wasn't trying to make fun of him. He's fun. Like, he's got a good character, and the fans love him, so I'm just trying to play into it.
Yeah, he's a troll.
He had the moment where they fumbled at the goal line, and his heads-up play fell on it when it was just kind of squirting around behind the pile. Nobody knew that the ball was loose at that time.
Yep.
That was a nice win for them, although the Giants are just a dumpster fire right now, so it's hard to know how much stock to put into it. Can I throw one more at you? Because I don't disagree with anything you said. What Bo's doing right now was awesome. That was a big win. And what some people thought maybe a letdown spot, Raider game, divisional.
It started out that way, too. It was a little bit of a weird start for them. A lot of field goals settling. The Raiders got off to a quick start, and then things kind of settled down. Their defense, they put Gardner Minshew in hell.
Yes, and then they broke his collarbone. Yeah, I don't know where the future is going to go. I still don't think there's anything there. It just is a brief moment in time that I'm genuinely happy for him. Bryce Young's playing pretty good football right now.
That was a great game.
Like, he's not a top 5. He's not elite, but he's not losing games and throwing like 4 picks a game right now.
He wasn't the reason they lost that.
No, he
game.
was not. He was fine on Sunday. He was fine yesterday. In his 4 games since coming back, he's thrown 5 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Back-to-back games without a pick. He's won 2 of those games. They beat New Orleans and they beat the Giants. So he's 2-2 in his 4 starts since coming back. Dude, that guy, we have all written him off, and I probably still have him written off. I don't think there's anything there. Having him be happy in the NFL for like a couple of weeks, I'm happy for Bryce Young.
They went for 2. They didn't get it. On the sideline, they showed him walking to the sideline after failing on the 2, and he saw this embrace that Canales gave him. He like hugged him, and so like maybe we go back to that. Maybe they handled that internally correctly. Maybe. Now, we need to see what he's going to become. That was a good game for him. He was efficient. He didn't cost them the game. And, of course, the Chiefs win in that way where it's like, hey, it's tied. And then they're going to get a Mahomes run for like 45 yards, and they're going to walk off with a field goal win.
It's nice not to see him looking inept in NFL games. It's like, oh, he actually is throwing it to the right guy. And one of the reasons for that, I heard Adam Thielen actually taking him under his wing, which did not happen last season. It's interesting now. I don't know what happened in the locker room, if Dave Canales did something, but veteran wide receivers a little bit more willing to work with him. And, even with Deontay Johnson gone, it sounds like there's A, little bit more talent in the receiver room to help a young Bryce Young, and B, maybe some veterans are warming to the kid, which that is always a recipe for success. If you're getting some of the best mentorship you can, Adam Thielen's been there and done it. I mean, that is going to help you, and it was not happening last year.
Yeah, a couple other things that pop for me. The NFC West is a disaster.
Who's going to win right now?
Who cares?
Give me a pick. Who's going to win the division?
I'm picking that team to
I'm
lose
going to give
their
you
first playoff
$20
game.
to put. I'll Venmo you $20 to bet. Who do you put money on to win the NFC West?
I'll still probably, because of value, it's hard for me not to want to take the Rams.
Yeah, ditto.
But I don't
Take
think
the
the Rams are that good.
They're my team, but
Let's see if I can find the odds for the division right now.
Well, Arizona was a small favorite going into the Seattle game, and then Kyler Murray just decided to completely not care about that football
But
game.
the Rams have drafted really well. Les Snead has gotten really good defensive tackles in
Their
the last
D-linemen have been
two
good.
drafts.
Yeah,
so.
they've been good, but they got their asses kicked yesterday by
but
the
it's
Eagles.
the Eagles. It's Saquon.
Well, but that was going to be my other one. Quickly, Houston losing to Tennessee. They have not looked the part all year, and that is problematic. That I don't know where you place Houston in your AFC pantheon, but like Kansas City, Buffalo, Baltimore, probably Chargers.
Remember when C.J. Stroud was better than Justin Herbert?
You hear what he said about his latest picks, too? C.J. Stroud?
He threw a bad one in that
yeah,
game.
and
man.
he said
threw a
shooter's going to
really
shoot.
bad
And it's
one.
like, get back to the film there, kid. Like, not
Well,
quite.
I mean, I think that's kind of my thing is like, I want to be fair here. Bo Nix is making me look stupid.
Yeah.
This is why you always pump the brakes just a little. I give the flowers, but C.J. Stroud was the darling can't-miss quarterback, and he has not been good this year when I've watched him. Philadelphia is my other takeaway. Yeah, they beat the Rams, the middling Rams.
I dominated that game.
Sirianni gets a lot of grief at his own market and from people all over the country that watch football, and I certainly understand some of it, but what are we doing with the Eagles here?
Yeah.
Who are the two best teams in the NFC to you?
It's Philly and it's Detroit. It's not even close.
I think it has to be, doesn't it?
At this point in the season, it has to be.
And
I would
then
pick them to
third
beat
is-
anybody else.
You can
Green
argue with
Bay,
a wall.
Minnesota. I don't know.
Green Bay's third in their division.
They are third in their division. By the way, NFC West odds: Cardinals plus 130, Seahawks plus 200, Rams plus 425.
That's why I'm laying the bet.
Niners plus 700.
They're done.
I'm going to go place a 20 on the Rams right now.
Dude, the Niners
It's
are
a good value bet, honestly.
Put a bet on who?
On the Rams.
On the Rams
Yeah,
to win it.
plus
I think
425.
even after last night, what you saw last night, they lost by 17 at home to Philly.
Do the Eagles not do that to
Everyone?
Arizona
It's
and
Saquon.
Seattle?
I'm not saying they wouldn't.
Look, I'm not trying to defend the Rams. I don't have a reason to
Well,
defend
I
the
am.
Rams.
This is the beauty of the NFC West. It's like they're done. They're game out of first place. Is Seattle good now, or is Seattle the front runner? Is Arizona good? Kyler Murray wearing Oregon cleats and then losing in Seattle too. What are we doing?
I don't think any team in that division's good.
None of them
There's
are.
my hot take.
None of them are. They will lose their first playoff.
Good
game.
for Seahawks fans. I was wrong springing line in that game, but my God.
Let's close up Hardball. We're basically already there. Hardball and the Blazers back in action next on the Fan.
The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Colin Cowherd.
I know you wanna leave me.
Bud Light presents a Rivalry Week edition of Dirt and Sprague
Nothing easier to enjoy than that. Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy.
on 1080 The Fan.
Well, get ready for this all night tonight.
Who's got it better than us?
It's the Harbaugh, Jim versus John. Should we debate which Harbaugh do you want? Huh?
The ESPN show did that before us, and they all took Jim. And then I just thought, like, that's fine.
Yeah.
John beat him in a Super Bowl.
He did.
Yeah,
One of
he's
the
a
most
little easy.
consistently good head coaches in the last 40
Every year,
years in
yeah.
the NFL.
John's a little easier to talk to, too.
He's a little
he?
more easy to talk to.
I would say so than Jim, yes.
I think Jim would be more enjoyable to talk
Agreed.
to. John easier to talk
Yes.
to. I think Jim Harbaugh's got a little Bill Walton in him where you're just like, where are you going right now? Are you with me? Are we in the same room currently? I think there's a lot of that. Yeah. What drugs are you on
watching
right
the
now?
same game? Maybe.
Chargers got that great first half last week against Cincinnati and then damn near peed it down their legs, similar to their playoff loss to the Jags a couple of years ago. And the Ravens coming in. This is
It's
a
a
really
massive game for them. They played like crap last
bad
week.
loss to the Steelers. Lost the game without allowing a touchdown, 18-16.
Yep.
So big one, by the way, for the number one overall wild card spot. I know the Ravens are still alive in their division. Chargers uphill battle. Good luck knocking off the Chiefs.
Yeah.
But in terms of the number one wild card spot, big one tonight for that race.
No doubt about it. And, something to watch tonight. I know it's obvious to say, watch the quarterback. But, like, statistically, the Ravens' rush defense is one of the best units in football.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to beat them, you got to be good in the air.
Their
This could
passing
be
defense is not good.
Massively big night for Justin Herbert. And it wouldn't shock me if he used a lot of his legs, too, in passing plays.
Very well could. He's been doing that a lot more lately. Blazers are on the road in Memphis, 10.5-point underdogs.
Oh, it's moved up since the
I think you take Portland in the points. This isn't a full-strength
Yeah,
Grizzly
you think so?
unit.
Last time we saw them against the Grizz, they did lose by 40.
A lot of small ball.
No clinging tonight.
Yeah.
It was at 8.5. It's climbing to 10.5. I think that's a value bet right there.
Money
Although I
coming
just
in.
lost on Friday.
I was going to say, you take the
damn
12
it.
and a half, too.
My mentality's not changing. I don't know what Blazer team's going to show up. They got killed on Friday
Fair.
and then went out right on Saturday, so I don't know.
Very quickly, did you find any of the Lanning slander?
I found written quotes. I found stuff that people. No.
It's out there.
I didn't
Believe
go find
it.
an audio quote. It's out there.
Believe
people
it.
have been questioning everything the Ducks have been doing along the way. It's true. Even you.
Yeah.
Even you, Sprague.
I think I
What has he won? Has he won a big game? Hasn't beaten Washington,
Beat
huh?
Ohio State.
Yeah. Come on. What were people saying going into that game?
Thank you for filling in, though.
Yeah.
Love you guys. It's
Love
been
you,
a fun
Schulte.
week.
Yeah, Swag's back tomorrow. Good stuff, Schulte. We love you. Thanks so much for being a part of our Monday. Go catch podcasts if you missed it, 1080thefan.com, at Dirt Sprague and at 1080thefan. Thanks for watching on YouTube, everybody. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. We will talk to you tomorrow at 6 a.m. Colin is next to listening to 1080 The Fan.